This tier list rates gloves based on solo use in a free-for-all setting and does not take into account any potential combos using friends or other gloves that you happen to benefit from. Some gloves may get a low ranking but are still really good gloves to have because of utility or its team potential. Gloves that mostly excel in 1v1s will also be ranked lower. Dying to reset the ability cooldown won't be taken into consideration because dying lowers a glove's value in this tier list. The gloves will be roughly ranked from worst to best within a tier, but it's difficult to put them in a precise spot when I'm ranking by myself. Please don't cry in the comments because your favorite glove is lower than you wanted it to be, especially if it's in the same tier. Lastly, slap battles is a game. Play how you want to play. Don't listen to toxic players' opinions. With that out of the way, I will describe what each tier means. F tier gloves have nothing going for them and are objectively bad. D tier are typically mediocre gloves that might have something going for it but are otherwise outperformed by the vast majority of gloves in the game. C tier gloves have decent potential to kill or survive but are generally lacking in some way. B tier gloves can get a respectable amount of kills without dying or are just annoying to kill. There will be lots of progression gloves in this tier as they perform very well once they get stronger, but dying resets that progress and they are typically very weak at the beginning. A tier gloves will perform very well in the arena and either require you to use something that directly counters it or outplay the player using it. You'll start to see a lot of solid gloves in this tier that can kill players relatively easily or have really good survival potential. S tier gloves can be incredibly hard to kill when used correctly, especially when there are no other players using S tier gloves or counters in the server. A lot of gloves here either feel unfair to fight due to some stupid ability it has or are good both offensively and defensively, usually because they have more than one ability. I'm going to have a tier above S tier which is just called S+. This is essentially the power creep tier. They are OP. These gloves are far from being balanced and have the potential to server wipe or be nearly impossible to kill. Either find a counter or hope that the player using one of these gloves isn't that good with it. Lastly, I'm going to have an unranked tier for gloves that just don't fit the theme of this tier list for whatever reason. You'll see a lot of gimmick and utility gloves here that either aren't meant for PvP or are too silly and weird for me to rank, or aren't meant for you to use by yourself. Gloves that have too many bugs may also go here. Hopefully you understand the rules and rankings. I'm going to be talking about the gloves in order from lowest rank to highest rank, meaning that I'm starting with F tier and will work my way up and talk about the S tier gloves towards the end. Feel free to click on timestamps for any glove you're interested in hearing about. I will also be yapping about other mumbo jumbo related to this tier list at the end of this video. Let's get into the actual rankings. Default but bad was an April Fool's joke that is exactly what the name is. The ability slows the user down and the slap power is so low that your only kills will be AFK players. Spin does very little knockback with its 25 power, but the real challenge is trying to hit players while constantly spinning. You can somewhat control the spin if you aren't in shift lock by moving in circles, but this glove is still stinky doo-doo. Hitting a player multiple times without training is not an easy thing to do without actually lagging, which would be pretty fitting for this glove. You'll probably get 1 or 2 hits before the ability ends since they just have to slap you once to get away and move into a safer position. 60 knockback isn't a lot when delayed this much. The E ability is best for messing around since you will receive full knockback when hit, limiting placement to the middle of the arena. It really is a shame to put command in D tier because the concept is very cool. However, it's difficult to do anything meaningful with this glove because you have to click to do everything, including your own movement. You can overwhelm players with your units, but you have to earn the coins needed to purchase them by slapping, and you would not do very well at this by trying to charge at players. There isn't much merit in mastering the movement either when this glove will be outclassed by almost everything, but I do think it's at least worth trying. Bounty's ability means almost nothing for this tier list. You have to slap a player 5 times for them to take significantly increased knockback. The only scenario where a player can survive 5 whole slaps is if they are using a really good glove. And if they are using a really good glove, you're dead. Otherwise, they will likely die to someone else before you can get a high bounty on them. Hammer is the worst RNG glove in the game. The ability timer is random, which can be negated by the player slapping you back, and the ability has random knockback in a random direction. You can maybe kill someone if you slap them without an unfavorable trade, have a low timer, have them get knocked in the correct direction, and receive somewhat favorable knockback. What? Just because one time you got the 1 in 1 million chance to kill everyone in the arena doesn't make it consistent or the best troll glove ever? Statistically, it sucks. Sleepy Glove has low power and slap speed with an ability that doesn't make up for it. It's not hard to slap a sleeping player. You can hit them as you unequip and re-equip your glove, and the roll just makes them even more vulnerable. However, the ability can be used to avoid some annoying abilities like Slasher. I think it's a funny glove to use against a noob. I mean, what's more embarrassing than dying to a sleep glove? Besides turning into a very small creature like Meow to either surprise people or punish those who don't quite know where their hitbox is, Prop doesn't have much use. You're basically just bullying noobs, so you won't get very far with this glove when up against the many other gloves with much more useful abilities. The wiki states that there were 3 stages of leaf piles for Leafblower, with the final stage producing infinite leaves. I cannot for the life of me get a pile that big. Not because of a skill issue or because it disappears, but because the leaves just stop going into the pile after a while. It might be bugged. I could rate it higher if this is fixed. I think it requires too much setup for little reward. You hit players for leaves, then take the time to suck them up, then spit them at players, which can easily miss. Players with leaves on them make them vulnerable, but they get lower gravity, which can give them an advantage. And I haven't been able to get too many kills without dying and immediately losing all of the leaves I have gained. Death is pretty punishing for a glove that isn't too much of a threat without a lot of setup. Fun to mess with though. Pole is okay. It pulls. It's maybe a threat at the edge, but any glove can do what pole can do because of flicking. You can utilize flicking to consistently hit players, but that doesn't make it better than slapping with any other glove in the game. At best, you can edge camp, except many gloves do it better. Redacted is fine. You can argue it being C tier since it has a 90% chance to kill a player once they get sucked in, but the portal is really small, so the only realistic strategy is to slap players into it. I'm not counting badge hunters who just walk towards it. The portal can be used defensively, but it takes so long to activate that it's not worth it. It's pretty niche, and any moderately careful player poses more of a threat to you than you do to them. Nightmare's darkness effect goes away way too fast. Hitting a player fills a percentage of the darkness meter, but that doesn't matter when the effect will almost go away entirely by the time you run back towards the player. This is assuming you hit them without trading too. I find myself killing players before I can apply the effect, making it useless if you're playing aggressively, and even more useless in a free-for-all setting where any player can completely ruin the progress you had on another player. If you manage to apply the effect before killing them, you'll have a massive advantage on that one single player. Jerry is just not that good. I'm giving a C tier because its ability can catch you off guard with decent knockback if the player has not marked anyone. However, Jerry is a physically unfit and slow old man. He takes so long to jump and sit on a player that they can just walk out of range, and the cooldown is a massive 30 seconds, but you are unaffected by the ability, so you can use it to put pressure on other players. Besides that, it's hard to do anything meaningful with this glove. You can launch people with Pylon's ability if you hit them into it, but it isn't really a massive threat through the arena. It can be used to section off areas of the map, although you are more likely to die by another player hitting you into the pylon and launching you across the map rather than the pylon user doing so themselves. Oh, so if anything, pylon just seems more like a minor nuisance rather than a good defensive glove. They massacred bus. There is now a clear indicator when it's being used, and hitting a player into the bus can also cancel out the huge ragdoll time and knockback. I've only been hit when it's been used very far back or I wasn't paying attention to the game at all. The bus can still basically one-shot you, so it's fine, but that's it. Brick has some decent utility. You can double jump, flame bricks, and instantly plop them out to get cheap stuns on someone who is chasing you. Stunning a player with a brick does give you a free hit, but brick only has 40 power. You can get an advantage if you manage to stun someone towards the edge of the map, though flicking a brick accurately towards a player is really hard unless they're standing still, so not the most useful glove. RNG is C tier because of its random knockback. 70 power is enough to launch players almost halfway across the arena, so it has a chance to kill you if you were not standing in the middle. The reason why it isn't rated higher is because I don't think relying on luck is an amazing thing for a glove. There isn't anything you can do to consistently kill players, and random knockback direction just makes it an annoying glove if you get unlucky and die to it. Tycoon is very vulnerable when building up power. This is one of the few gloves where you kind of have to take into consideration what other players will try to do to you, because they love targeting Tycoons. I don't know if they get some kind of dopamine killing an almost powerless player trying to gain what little power they can, watching as the Tycoon blows up without its owner taking care of it, but it happens very often. This glove requires far too much setup and time to essentially become a speedy one-shot glove with 1 life. I would absolutely rate this B tier if I were not taking into consideration how heavily targeted this glove is. The Plague rework promotes a much more aggressive playstyle compared to its old passive ability. The glove can be pretty annoying to deal with long term, but that's all the glove really is. Annoying. It's very likely that the player you are fighting will die to the void before they die to the plague effect, and it's normally not that hard to get rid of the effect by passing it on to another player or even the plague user themselves. This effect could be useful if you were just trying to stay in the middle and slowly kill off some players, but it's generally not a significant threat to the arena otherwise for most gloves. Defense is, well, defensive. This simple glove is good at negating most powerful threats, but it's hard to use offensively. You can put pressure and limit where someone can walk at the edge, except you have to leave the cube to actually attack a player, putting you at risk as well. There are plenty of gloves that can get around your defense, like ranged or AoE abilities, so defense is just a moderately good defensive glove with very little offensive threat, making it safe for most players to ignore until the defense user decides to come out and become vulnerable. Stalker is more annoying than anything. If someone pays attention to where you were standing, or you don't have enough time to get your speed boost before someone tries to hit you, then you basically lose any advantage you can get with this glove. A small speed boost and surprise attack isn't very useful for much. You try to get cheap kills by positioning yourself closer to the edge. I would just say try not to be greedy and use it when there are actual threats near you. Walrus makes me very sad when using it. It feels so close to being fun, but is instead almost useless despite being buffed multiple times. How does this glove cost almost 40,000 slaps? Apparently the Walrus should become faster the longer you are moving around on it, similar to Sparky. If that's true, then it takes way too long to do so, or the speed boost is negligible. The flop Walrus does has decent AoE and launches people in the direction you're facing. I've gotten a 2-hit combo with it, so it's possible to knock people halfway across the arena. The problem is, you can get hit while moving during the flop and charge up animation, making you constantly vulnerable. The jump is so slow and very telegraphed, giving way too much time to react. Charging up your E feels like a mistake to do because of how much longer the animation takes just for more knockback. No one is actually dying to Walrus except maybe unsuspecting players. I feel like I'm being pretty generous with C tier, and I really hope I'm missing something with this glove. I like Flick just because the sound effect is nice to hear. I also enjoy watching them ragdoll differently. The glove is decent in free-for-all settings because flicking a player essentially turns them into a bowling ball where any player that happens to be in the way will also get knocked away. So it's somewhat decent at crowd control, assuming you know how to aim. Outside of that, it's just a normal slap glove, but with no arc from the knockback. Unless I'm missing something, RC isn't really great once someone decides to go after you. Attaching the glove to another player is almost useless when that gets rid of your ability to slap in exchange for blowing them up. Just plopping the glove down while hiding is also whatever. Trying to slap the glove remotely feels weird and it is hard to actually land slaps, and the explosion could only do so much. If you can bait the friction user into slapping the air, it's not hard to deal with this glove. Same with the flame trail it produces, you could just not go near them. They are slowed while dragging it, so they can't easily walk up to someone and slap them. The boosted power the slap has is enough to kill someone in one hit, but it's not reliable to use for reasons I just said. You can use this glove as an AoE ability because the slam does knock people back who are close to you, but it's not much better than other gloves. Stalagmite feels too clunky to do much. You are so slow while throwing stalagmites that players can either run away or slap you out of the animation. The most use I got out of this glove was waiting until someone got close to me and paling them with the initial ability, then throwing the player infused stalagmite across the arena. If the game is feeling nice, I can maybe slap them from here, but usually they plop down in place when I attempt this. A lava pool spawns after 5 seconds of standing still, which provides some nice short-term buffs, but I don't think I have to explain why standing still for 5 seconds can be a bad thing. Overall, this glove is pretty decent for 1v1s, but will definitely struggle in an active arena. I would say you can use Screwdriver to get reliable free hits, but the screwing speed is so fast you can accidentally trade with a lot of players if they are just spam clicking. So there will be times where you can't even knock them back at all, which makes trades pretty bad. Players can be bugged from this glove and infinitely fly away, but I don't want to take bugs like this into consideration when raiding gloves. So Hando can get really cheap kills since you pull players towards you from a respectable distance. If the player is far enough, you actually have time to walk around to the other side of them and hit them right off the edge. However, you have a 6-second spawn cooldown and an even longer 16-second cooldown after using the ability, which gives players plenty of time to close the distance between you. You can't reliably do the trick I mentioned when they're close, and the best you can hope for at this point is a good trade. If they are too close, you are actually vulnerable even when using the ability since you are stuck in a pulling animation, so outside of cheap kills, this glove isn't amazing. Hive is pretty annoying to deal with and has crowd control capabilities. Using the ability gets rid of your glove temporarily, making you extremely vulnerable since you can no longer slap. The glove does reappear shortly before the swarm animation is done, giving you time to get one free hit on a player you choose, but this does not stop a different player from beating the life out of you before that. The cooldown is not really enough to do a lot to players by yourself. You pretty much have to hope those swarm players are dealt with by other people, but that's not really you killing them. That's an assist. Thanos doesn't quite give you enough time to use your ability if you're already falling off the edge, so you have to preemptively use it if you know you're about to be slapped, or use it the second you get touched at the edge. Since you get to choose where to teleport to, you know you will be in a good position when using the ability, making it good for defense. There's an obvious audio cue when you use the first part of your ability, so it isn't great for offense. Thanos also suffers from a long 15-second cooldown when you use the ability. If I rated gloves based on vibes, El Gato deserves S tier simply because it has a cat. Unfortunately, I'm not doing that. Reverse exists, and it is better than El Gato in PvP while costing far fewer slaps to use. Using the ability is dependent on how close your cat is, and it does not last nearly as long. If you want to put pressure on another player, you must approach your cat to activate the ability. Once you do, you can't move. So the player can just walk around you, leaving you cornered and waiting 5 seconds to use the ability again. El Gato does have some perks that Reverse doesn't, such as removing some harmful effects on your player, and even healing you when using the ability. It also kills Bob, but Reverse is still far superior offensively, so El Gato has to be a C tier glove. Apologies to the cat fans out there. Mitten can now choose to drop a positive or negative present, so it's no longer a gamble. However, anyone can grab the present, so there will be players who grab the buff before you do. You can trick players by sending a negative present each time, but the buffs and debuffs are still random. There is a 50% chance a debuff benefits you, that being blindness and ice cube. The other 50% is an explosion that knocks you back as well, or immobilization, which makes them invincible during the time frame. The buffs are all good, with speed being the best to reliably kill anyone with. The other two buffs are better suited for defense. Either way, this glove is not consistent enough to be rated higher for single player use. Baby pushes players until they are just out of your range. Newer players may not realize they have to re-input their movement key to escape the ability, but once they do know, it's not really threatening. You can cry a little to mess with players' movement and potentially get a free hit, or cry forever since nobody can reach you without a ranged ability. The 12-second cooldown is pretty brutal for a glove that has to rely on it. Engineer is not an amazing defensive glove. There is tech you can do to hit players with a spawning sentry before it visually appears, but outside of that, it's just a moderately annoying to kill glove that has to sit in one spot to be somewhere safe. You can trade with them, even if they're hiding in the sentry, and they will still be vulnerable to ranged attacks. You can position your sentries in a way to help prevent people from sneaking in and getting a hit on you, so you can slap your sentries to temporarily make them spin faster. But there is only so much you can do defensively and offensively. It kind of sucks. It's not like sentries cover a lot of ground or anything. Replica is a nuisance. Your clones are really good at slapping other players, but they are also very stupid, walking towards the closest person while slapping occasionally. Personally, I love jumping on the clone's head when a Replica player is relying on it without doing too much else. The most consistent use you will get out of the glove is trying to pressure someone close to the edge. Players will find it difficult to deal with both you and your clone when they can die from one slap. Outside of that, your clone is just a meat shield. Duel is one of the favorites for slap farming, but for PvP it has one thing going for it. 2 hitboxes! No longer are you open on the left side of your character. No sir, you now have double the slap protection. Because of this, Duel is really good at consistently trading hits with other players, meaning you will have less of a chance of getting absolutely stomped on by another player. Slap training ruins a lot of combos, so this makes you more of a threat when cornering your opponent. What are they gonna do? Try to flick you? Slap trade. We both die. Take that, loser. Mister is annoying. The blindness effect is just obnoxious. You receive significantly less knockback while in ball form, and you don't have to deal with the ragdoll animation, so annoying effect and really hard to kill. What a delightful combo. You can kill players by ramming yourself into them at top speeds, which can fling them off the map. It is hard to control though, only becoming harder based on the positioning of your player. For this tier list, I am not taking into consideration flinging a player off the map if you also die in the process, but it's obviously fine for trolling. You can play aggressively with this glove and only use the ability when you're in immediate danger, though keep in mind you cannot use the ability while ragdolled, so this has limited uses. You are probably going to launch yourself off the map more than killing a significant number of players. Bowl is probably the most balanced high power glove you will see in this game. 70 power is enough to launch players halfway across the map. In return, you have the slowest slap speed of 1, making the slap more clearly telegraphed. This glove slaps so slowly, it can actually be a little deceiving knowing when the hitbox actually ends. Take advantage of this and you might get some unexpected slaps on players. Bowl might seem weak and useless due to its slow slap speed, but it only needs 1 or 2 hits to actually kill you, so it's not actually bad. It's also not the best glove, especially if you don't play just right. Or can slightly limit the options of a player when it's being used offensively, but otherwise it's just a fun glove to mess around with. It has pretty bad defense unless you use it on a plank, and the walls can be destroyed if someone is ragdolled into it. Players can also go through the walls while it's being built. That being said, the short duration the wall is non-collidable allows you to consistently hop onto it, almost instantly giving you a height advantage over other players, and this can even be used offensively. It's not huge, but it does give this glove some decent potential to do some stylish stuff on other players. Definitely a glove worth messing with, especially since it has a mastery that expands on the wall collision nonsense even further that I will get into later. Diamond was buffed since I last played with it. You will no longer slow down when you deactivate the rock ability, which means that using it has zero downsides besides the 8-second cooldown. So we are left with a pretty weak glove that has the ability to basically become immortal. If you are very patient and come out of the rock when it is safe to handle a player or two, then this glove is pretty alright. I'm mostly rating it B tier because of the survival potential this glove has, but Diamond has a bigger, much more reliable older brother. Recall is decent for survival and can be annoying to kill. It spawns a portal where your character appears after rewinding, punishing anyone trying to predict where you end up. This would give you guaranteed breathing room if the glove had 0 bugs. It's not bad, but like most similar defensive gloves, it has a long cooldown. Since the glove has nothing else going for it, there isn't much you can do if you rewind to a bad position like the edge. Mace is cool with its unique physics and tech. I don't really know the full potential of this glove. This glove has a much longer reach than most in this game, so you can just spin around like a caveman for hits. If you know and use any crazy Mace tech, leave it in the comments. Draw 4's ability makes affected players invincible, so you cannot get free hits with it. The effects are RNG, so you won't reliably get kills when the player can pick the plague effect and move on. This glove is much more effective on newer players who haven't dealt with the ability, otherwise it's a slight nuisance rather than a proper threat. Pillow is good for camping on a side island and blowing people off the map, with clones and low gravity to pick off any remaining threats while the cannons are on cooldown. This is assuming you obtain at least 50 pillows, otherwise this glove poses almost no threat to the arena at all. I would say an upgraded pillow fort is enough to be considered B tier, considering how easy it is to collect 50 or even 100 pillows. Master Tycoon is B tier for similar reasons to Pillow. It is good for camping once you progress enough. Even though you can turn your Tycoon into a literal fortress and have one-shot potential, I am only putting it one spot above Pillow for multiple reasons. Firstly, it gets severely targeted because players simply do not want to deal with a Master Tycoon fortress in the arena. Secondly, it takes extremely long to progress with the button Tycoon progression on top of the regular progression, which share the same currency. It does have another conveyor to give you money, but you still have to invest into it. Good luck doing so while other players are coming after you. Lastly, the Tycoon fort is not at all a threat until it is almost fully maxed out, because many gloves can get in through an opening in the ceiling or entrance. Even with max upgrades, you can easily die to a single slap or ranged ability, or even to your own Tycoon's defenses. Master Tycoon is a really cool concept, but it's not great specifically in a free-for-all setting playing solo. Leash generally struggles against a full game of players. There are way too many threats to deal with for a glove that has nothing but its passive ability. One mistake is all it takes for your leash doggies to be freed, and they can limit your movement by jumping around or even just existing. You can drag leash players off the ledge, especially if you try to only target one person at a time, but I think this glove's best use in PvP is using the leash to get free hits on players, although there are much better gloves for this purpose. Elude has the simple ability of teleporting to a random location upon being slapped instead of taking normal knockback. It's a good ability if you like the idea of rage baiting the other player because they didn't actually hit you, except it's not really that annoying and you're a minor inconvenience to the majority of players at best. You likely won't get many kills unless you exclusively target people at the edge and manage to hit them first, but most abilities still work on you. This glove lets you link one player to yourself or slap a second player to link them both to each other. If one dies, so does the other. This glove used to be harder to deal with, but now you can just hit the link user to remove the connection or hit another player to transfer it to them instead. Some players really love Gummy. It is annoying, sure, but in my experience you will mostly be pushing players into the dirt when using this ability instead of sending them flying, or if you do manage to, it's usually not enough to kill them. You may be able to if you hit them a lot and get lucky with the RNG of where the Gummy pieces attach, but that's really it. Blasphemy is a more consistent version of Hammer. There isn't a random timer and players slapping you won't get rid of it. They can delay the inevitable by standing still, which only makes them more vulnerable to the server. This glove is much better than Hammer at trolling a lobby and can do a lot to put pressure on players. However, they still take random knockback, so it's not always consistent for killing. Trap is Brick's annoying brat child. The traps are almost invisible on the ground, and trapping players gives you plenty of time to kill them, or easily slap them into another trap, as I like to do. Trap also has some of the same tech Brick has, like double jumping. Honestly, it's pretty hard to notice traps when fighting. This glove can get annoying to deal with, so it's best to kill them quickly before they set up a lot of traps and cause chaos. Blink was disgustingly powerful on release. You could essentially teleport with it and instantly hit players, but now there is a 1 second delay before you can slap, which makes you vulnerable if you appear too close. The ability is very noticeable and not a huge threat overall. I'm putting this a B tier because you can be a sweat with the teleportation. Aggro is obnoxious. The 16-second cooldown makes it hard to survive for a long time when it is the only thing that can save you. The ability is kind of an AoE disarm. Since I'm not taking friends into consideration, it can basically only be used to get a free hit on whoever you catch in the area. Track is alright. You can't slap for 3 seconds after the ability, so it's hard to get a lot of kills with this glove. The track missile can be dodged easily and either be used against you or the player can knock themselves back in a better direction, making it hard to kill experienced players close to the edge. I have managed to get some decent combos with this glove, but it's not easy to do and won't always kill. It's too slow to do anything crazy. Renge can prevent players from turning, but it does 0 knockback on the first hit, making it incredibly hard to trade since you have to hit them twice. So you get knocked back away from your opponent at the cost of locking their positioning, which may not even put them at a disadvantage. There's also nothing stopping them from running away to a side island, and you definitely don't have the advantage once once you are both there. This limits what you can do significantly and requires a bit of luck if you want kills. Pinata is nice since you can use the candy drops when you need it to go for an offensive push, or to create some distance from other players. It's not a bad glove once you adapt to its playstyle, but it won't destroy an arena since you are limited to your candy drops from slap players. Gravity allows you to be aggressive and put a ton of both metaphorical and literal pressure on players you are targeting. It's also good defensively since players cannot safely approach you without a ranged or AoE ability. You are, however, still basically a normal slap glove during their cooldown. The ability is not enough to make up for those vulnerable periods, and players are as fast as you outside of the effect area, so they can stall your ability. Cherry is not bad. You can tell who the real player is because of the delay their clones have, so the user cannot rely on the opponent not knowing where they are. Cherry is good for combos because you can use a clone to combo someone towards either another clone or yourself to get another hit, but note that clones immediately disappear when you are slapped. Another issue is most ranged and AoE abilities can completely destroy the clones you hit or hit you directly, which also erases the clones. The clone positioning is random when spawning in, so you have to rely on luck to use them for defense. Ghost Invisibility immediately puts this glove in B tier, but it has a 20-second cooldown, which is long enough for players to go after you. It is worth noting that when activating the ability, there is a 1.5-second cooldown, so if you slap someone during that period, the ability cooldown will reset. This could be used to trick players and get a free hit. Swapper can be used both offensively and defensively. You can sit at the edge like a loser to swap with someone and hope they walk off the edge, or you can be Kirkenuinely awesome sauce and play aggressively, saving your ability to instantly table the tables against your opponent. The cooldown is, however, 10 seconds, and you can only target the player closest to you, so it isn't guaranteed you will use it on who you want. Pusher is an early brain dead slap plus E glove. Slap them, press E, boom. They will be pushed halfway across the map. You can even play more aggressively and try to intercept them if they get around the wall. But there are a lot of slap plus E gloves, and Pusher is honestly one of the worst ones. The distance players are pushed will not be consistent. They can clip through walls when slapped, mobility gloves can get around the wall much easier, and players can let themselves be pushed if a wall is going towards one of the connecting side islands. You can safely camp on the side islands as the Pusher user, but that can only provide so much value in a free-for-all. Boomerang is what Pole wishes it could be. It allows you to potentially infinite combo and secure an easy kill. The problem is every player has different ping and hardware in their device. Some players will fly perfectly, going exactly where you want them to, others, not so much. On top of this, if you trade with the player at any point, it will either ruin your combo entirely or just make it really hard to perform. This glove struggles to consistently kill players and is not able to deal with several players at once unless you somehow manage to juggle them. If you manage to survive and get slapped many times using Kinetic, you will turn into a nuke. It isn't hard to do so as long as there aren't many threats or anyone actively trying to destroy you. Kinetic can also be good for surviving since you can activate the ability mid-ragdoll, freezing your character in place. If you've been slapped a few times before activating the ability, the explosion will be enough to give you some breathing room at the edge and prevent your death at the same time. However, Kinetic's cooldown is only 15 seconds, so it will have issues dealing with offensive gloves. Avatar is hard to make significant progress at the beginning. You can create different kinds of creatures with optional buffs, potentially making them immortal. Problem is, once it dies, you pop out in its place. You are just a normal, harmless basement dweller that must run to the bunker, so this is dangerous. Once you upgrade your bunker, your life becomes a lot easier. You can even get to a point where you can summon an abomination that heals when it eats and kills players. But this is difficult to reach. If you get 7 kills at the beginning without dying and immediately summon an abomination with a self-sustained upgrade, you may get enough kills and power to jumpstart your bunker, although the abomination can easily die and leave you vulnerable. Mushroom only requires you to hit players with your ability to progress and gain strength. It is not strong enough until you fill the bar fully, leaving you weak for potentially a long time. Turning into a mushroom means you can't move, so it's not hard to be ignored or baited into using your ability, which has a 5-second cooldown. It is worth playing with to see how powerful this glove gets, but I won't rate it super high because it does not get a consistent amount of kills until you upgrade it far enough to be a proper threat. Roguelike is unique in its progression, but the buffs are random and require good luck. You can be really strong at level 4 or very useless if you get unlucky. There are lots of cool and strong abilities you can get, but of course you only have 1 life. Still a glove worth trying. Clover is one of the better RNG gloves. You have 5 seconds to transfer the debuffs you roll to other players, but to avoid passing on a good buff, you cannot slap anyone, making you vulnerable. There is also a 2% chance you become God for 8 seconds, one-shotting players, but it's still RNG and players can stall your ability if you don't plan ahead. Home Run hurts. If you tap the ability, you launch someone a considerable distance and holding it will one-shot players. It's easy to get baited into using the ability, and you will likely only kill people if they are already vulnerable from another player. However, you will have time to charge your ability a little, which does a lot of knockback as the power increases quickly, but if you miss, cooldown is 10 seconds. Pinwheel can only go in a predetermined location based on the wind current. You can easily combo someone to death with this glove if they happen to be in a direction you want, but Acrobat and Flash are much more consistent gloves for this. Having your dash direction limited can become bad if players notice the direction you're locked into. You can use your ability to evade to an extent, but you need to kill someone to change the wind direction. Things will not always be in your control. Orbit relies on players with good ping, otherwise you won't consistently keep them away from you, resetting all of your orbiting gloves. You almost always slap trade with players when they enter your orbital defense, so you will likely start off with at least one glove after being resetted. Nothing else special about this glove though. Infinity has some niche uses like blocking table flip, pushing cars and speed, and overall creating distance from aggressive players. It can be annoying to kill someone using this glove defensively, but offensively, ping shenanigans means players can still technically slap you, and pushing them a little bit away from you isn't the most valuable thing in this game. Run is a really good glove to escape bad situations. As long as you are standing in the black circle, you'll be moved to a side island. If you manage to get someone in your Terry dimension of doom, cool. You might get a free kill, but it's not the easiest thing to do. Jupiter is weird to rate. On one hand, higher gravity means less knockback. On the other hand, people combo you much easier. But you can unequip the glove to prevent this and have regular knockback. But then why use this glove if you don't want the decreased knockback? I don't know, okay? Leave me alone. Excavator is a decent AoE glove that serves as both a defensive and offensive ability. Despite only being on the ground for about 3 seconds, it's a good glove to get some kills with. It has a long cooldown and was probably a much cooler glove before Global came and did it better. Meteor's main use is to be annoying. The knockback isn't very high and the meteors spawn randomly. Outside of the first meteors, players generally avoid the rest fine, so it's really only a slight nuisance. You're vulnerable while charging the ability, making it hard to safely use. Anchor has 60 power and you can play normally without having to use the ability and instead save it when in a tough spot. Nothing is stopping you from standing in the middle either, where you can generally kill players in 2 hits. Anchor is quite boring to use and launching players in one direction isn't exactly the most useful, making it hard to deal with the more powerful gloves in this game. Duelist feels so outdated these days. A glove that forces a player to fight essentially a bull without the slow slapping speed sounds good on paper, except so many gloves are either stronger than a glove with no ability or can easily get to the portal instead. Duelist can block some abilities, but certainly not enough to rate it higher. Snowball has received 5 direct buffs and benefited from the rework of the slowness effect, which disables your jump. Now, finally, this glove is decent when you want to target a single player. Once they are slowed from the turret, they will have difficulty escaping, giving the snowball user time to attack. It is also possible to place down another turret close to the debuffed player, which creates the opportunity for them to be stuck in an infinite combo. However, the turrets do struggle hitting moving targets and will only consistently hit the nearest slowed or immobile player. Mail is one of the first gloves to have an ability that messes with other players' screens, and it's still effective at doing so, especially with its AoE. Using it allows you to get free hits, and most players will likely back off, so it can be defensive too. Unfortunately, this glove has a 20-second cooldown, so it cannot be used often enough to rate it higher than B tier. There is a short delay before players can actually be pulled into the oven. The oven faces the direction you're facing when placing it, meaning it will only launch players towards the middle, if cornered at the edge. Being caught elsewhere will either kill them or put them in a bad position. It can end up similar to Hando, where it becomes unpredictable what will happen when many players are caught at once. Oven cannot easily perform infinite combos, and it is difficult to trap a cautious player. It's easy to ram yourself into danger and survive with Adios if you use the ability correctly, and the cooldown isn't even bad when playing aggressively. The obvious downside is you can't control where you appear in the arena, but you will likely be in a better spot than before. It's fine. Squished players can still slap and use their abilities, so you will likely only trade slaps or potentially be unable to do anything if they have a good ability. BONK's ability has a 12-second cooldown and is clearly telegraphed due to the wind-up animation. The AoE is also pretty small compared to other gloves. BONK isn't bad, but there are so many better gloves that can get free hits in this game. BONK would definitely be forgotten if not for its mastery. Jabated's ability activating makes a distinct sound, so it's hard to use aggressively. It's better used for trolling since trapping players won't always kill them if you were not angled correctly. Counter is basically a better version of Jabated since Counter has better knockback with essentially the same activation. Jabated is better for more passive player because if you fail to trick someone, you are unable to slap them. Demolition's bombs are easy to avoid, so this glove won't do much harm to players outside of slapping. If you get 10 kills with this glove without dying, you can place a single spike instead of a normal C4. This spike takes ridiculously long to plant, giving players 10 whole seconds to either disarm the bomb or simply walk away from it. Fortunately, The explosion is massive and the spike will immediately kill anyone in the radius. It also lingers for a long time, so you can spawn kill during the explosion if placed in the main arena. Pretty cool, but incredibly unrealistic to say that this is the reason demolition should go higher than B tier. When a rocket attaches to a player, they will either launch off the map, get a huge mobility boost, or have basically nothing happen. There's a good chance you will launch players away if you slap multiple rockets on them, which is easier if the rockets push them into the ground. Sometimes more inexperienced players will fly out of the arena themselves, which is a nice bonus. It requires some RNG to get good launches, but it's more consistent than Gummy in my opinion. Bubble's ability is insanely hard to hit players with after the rework. I do not understand why they felt the need to nerf it this bad. It feels almost unusable, and I think most players who have experienced the Mastery Guide will share this sentiment. If you do hit someone with this ability, it will likely kill them unless it travels to a side island. Golden's ability is a good early game option for major threats in this game. When the ability is active, your slap power is high enough to kill players in 1 or 2 hits, and the faster walk speed will prevent them from escaping. However, you have a 30-second cooldown. Because of this, the glove belongs in B tier, despite having such a powerful ability. Card keys and its mastery are very similar, so I'm putting them in the same tier. The card starts off very weak, and you will likely die a lot before progressing very far. When the card runs out of health, you become extremely vulnerable and are on cooldown for 14 seconds. The Master Glove gains XP faster, and you can upgrade to an ultimate ability depending on what you choose, but they are both progression gloves at the end of the day. Brick Mastery was a nightmare to deal with when first released, but they have made a few changes since then. Bricks can no longer be launched vertically to become a heat-seeking anti-aircraft missile when you fling them, so you can jump over the bricks and charge at the brick user, preventing them from trying again. The second nerf was adding a short cooldown to prevent stun locking players infinitely. Another issue is that even though the bricks are supposed to have aimbot, the launching feels inconsistent. The Mastery also did not increase its low slap power, so you likely won't kill stun players unless they're close to the edge. Defense Mastery is fun to play with, but it's not amazing for PvP. If you're just trying to stay in the middle of the arena and last as long as possible without actively trying to kill players, then this glove is good at that. But for the purpose of this tier list, the Mastery is not much more of a threat than normal defense. The ability has filter options that allow you to get on top of your cube, as well as preventing the cube from disappearing if you are inside of it, and sometimes when you're standing on it. It also has an R ability that sends you to the middle of the cube, similar to Magnet. You can't use this to basically never die, as once you get flung out of the arena, the ability makes you eat dirt rather than save you. It's a pretty good glove, but not the best for this tier list. Necromancer only requires 1 kill to get a free teleport, which is useful if you are hit off the edge. It is, however, difficult to rely on other players for kills because no one wants to turn into a zombie and act as your minion. Most will just wait until they can reset. All you can do is hope players don't immediately kill themselves to use them for free teleports. Necromancer is a decent glove to use for this ability alone, but it's not consistent enough to do much else. Each limb you consume with Smiler gives you +2 walk speed, making this glove manageable to progress given there aren't many threats nearby. You have to eat and kill players if you want to progress the glove and increase your kill count. This glove has 40 power, which allows you to easily get double slaps. You also only need 2 kills for the first ability, which is nice since overall Smiler is hard to progress. Pretty cool glove to try though. Killstreak is a classic progression glove. The user is targeted heavily once they reach a number of kills, and there are many gloves which can cheaply end the kill streak. I do like using Killstreak in the early stages because of how easily you can combo with the low power, but like most progression gloves in this tier list, I cannot rate this glove higher when it performs worse than the average glove early on. I hate Reaper. It encourages hit and run gameplay, and oh boy do players use that tactic. Since the death countdown starts at 25 seconds, it gives players plenty of time to kill you, so it's over if they're using a good glove. Reaper has the same issue like other progression gloves, but I specifically hate this glove because of how many players run away after hitting one person. I don't hate players for doing this, I just hate the glove itself. Mastered Thanos makes the ability feel a lot better when used defensively since you are given a speed and power boost after teleporting. The R ability feels pretty niche, but you can use it if you want to slap a player at a better angle, or you can combine it with your E ability to launch them farther. Outside of that, I have had some use stalling players with this ability when I need to get some space. This glove is good, but you have to use your only means of survival to get an advantage over players, and I don't think that will always work out nicely when you are in a free-for-all arena. Ballooning decreases your gravity low enough to continuously fly upwards, given that you don't have much falling momentum. This lets you use the glove to survive death if you attach the balloons in time. You can also ambush players by flying up and popping the balloons to quickly drop onto them. However, your opponents can choose whether they pop their own balloons, making it difficult to kill anyone in over 1 or 2 hits. Fights can easily become a stalemate with this glove, which would put it in B tier if not for Cannon Island. Ballooning is one of the few gloves in this game that can easily travel to the island, which makes it extremely useful given how strong the cannon is. Firework can very quickly go to Cannon Island by riding the rockets you shoot. It can also shoot rockets while the cannon is on cooldown. Outside of this, Firework is hard to use effectively without camping in one spot and sniping players. There is tech where you can ride your rocket, aim it so it launches a player forward, but jump off before it explodes to get a boost, potentially propelling you forward enough to get a cool combo on a player. Swashbuckler's R ability is really bad. The chest AoE is pathetically small and the knockback doesn't make up for it either. If you slap 10 players and collect every coin that was dropped, you can boost the size of the AoE and the chest power for one use. It's practically useless and incredibly boring to even attempt. The boat has a long 15-second spawn cooldown, so you only have a garbage ability to defend yourself within that time frame. Once you do get on the boat, you have to sail to a good position, turn your boat so the cannons are angled correctly, get off the wheel and walk over to the cannons, then click fire and hope the players are still within the range, which is certainly a process when you're alone. The knockback, however, is significant enough to not be a waste of time to do this. Once you annoy players, they will likely counter swap, which qualifies this glove for A tier. If you unequip your glove while the space ability is active, you can end it early. This is useful for surprising your opponent, but it's pretty obvious. Space can also be used as a recovery move if you are in danger or you know you're about to get slapped. However, the cooldown is 15 seconds starting from the beginning of use. Space is not the best glove for recovery, but it is capable of going to Cannon Island with its ability. Phase can be just about as good as surviving as Space since they both have a way to escape danger and they have a similar cooldown. However, Phase can be used to straight up avoid slaps if you use your ability right after clicking. Phase also makes you invincible unlike Space, and it gives you increased movement speed. The only major downside is that you can't cancel the ability. Definitely not an easy glove to kill when placed in the right hands, and it is able to travel to Cannon Island. Being able to camp on Cannon or Moai Island makes Poltergeist very threatening. The ghost is already obnoxious because it blinds you with its stupid image while forcing you players to walk towards the nearest ledge. You can easily kill a few players per ability use, except it shouldn't be too hard to walk up to the user and kill them while they are distracted, right? Incorrect buzzer! They have 2 seconds of iframes after the ability expires, which is enough time to slap away some loser spam clicking your corpse. It's hard to outplay a Poltergeist user without either spawn killing them or counter swapping. Shackle can be hard to kill because its ability anchors the user in one spot and potentially deals knockback. It's supposed to be an 8-second cooldown, but it starts at the beginning of use and the ability lasts about 5 seconds. They only have to survive 3 seconds before they can use it again, which is just very little time to kill Shackle. Ping Pong has average knockback, below average slap speed, and the projectile does as much knockback as your slap. It's not hard to hit people with this projectile, but there are gloves that do more than just 50 knockback. Regardless, the range ability gives you a big advantage against most gloves. Hitman only needs to collect a total of 20 slaps from bounties to receive a warp ability, which acts pretty similar to Flash. Mobility is very valuable for escaping tough spots as well as easily extending your combos. On top of this, Hitman's power increases to roughly 60 with a slightly bigger hitbox, which is above average power in reach, enough to potentially outright kill players if they are not standing close to the middle. Almost none of the ability upgrades Hitman receives are hard to obtain as there is usually a player or two with a pretty high bounty. This to me justifies this glove being in a higher tier than the other progression gloves. Hexa allows you to get away from players who have you cornered at the edge with its ability, can travel to Cannon Island, and even counters any kind of glove that can push you without properly ragdolling you. Hexa has a decent AoE ability, but you are still vulnerable while charging it. Combining an AoE ability with this passive ability gives this glove a lot of offensive and defensive value. Debug's ability can be extremely useful for escaping tough situations, like Bob, by just climbing in the air and allows you to easily travel to Cannon Island. That being said, it does take a couple seconds to actually scale your cubes, leaving you open if people are already nearby. So this glove cannot be used to cheese your way out of any fight. The cube does deal knockback, allowing you to launch and snipe players with it, but it requires you to pre-aim your cube before launching it. You'll find that competent debug users can be very hard to kill. Baller is a lovely outdated meme that does not fail to annoy players to this day. This glove is essentially a ranged glove and deals good knockback to players. The baller lasts 30 seconds before despawning and the cooldown is 14 seconds, so you will always have one ready. Though, if you have more than a small handful of brain cells, you can attack players yourself while your little friend fires away. You do have to pay attention to the baller if you want to avoid being hit, which is generally not a good thing when you are in a free-for-all arena, but the projectiles aren't that hard to dodge, just move sideways. Thankfully for anyone fighting the user, they can't be forced to target you. Anyone can slap the baller, meaning you could potentially use the knockback you deal to him to switch up the projectile angles, which makes it harder to dodge, but he is also vulnerable to being killed. This results in a very powerful but manageable glove to deal with. It can be hard to attack an Architect user because you can be trapped in a cube, and even if they miss, the cube can make you vulnerable for the knockback. The user can also propel themselves in one direction with the flying parts, which is a cool piece of tech to cover some ground. You can, however, just stand in the corners of the cube and be relatively safe against this ability, so Architect is not overpowered or anything. The obvious downside of Hunter is you can't choose your target, and even if you wait the 15-second cooldown, the game will just pick the same person again. The buffs you gain from killing your target just makes makes you a speedy one-shot for about 10 seconds, which is insane enough for me to have it in A tier. Players generally don't target you as much with this glove. You can usually wait until you get an easy target and go crazy, but this glove relies on the power boost to be amazing. Fandip's ability is great defensively, and turning invisible allows you to ambush players easily. If you know how to flick, you can appear wherever and still be able to hit the player. You are vulnerable when using this ability, but it is good enough to survive very long periods of time. Automaton has similar cons to Soul, being that you have to slap or kill players to charge your abilities. You need max resources for the ultimate abilities, and the regular ones also cost resources but are much worse. You can use the ultimate gearbug to fly pretty much anywhere, including Cannon Island, and the ultimate buzzsaw is good for combos and crowd control. The normal versions though? They're just mid. The normal buzzsaw is hard to hit players, and the normal gearbug flies around too randomly to be reliable. Good glove, but still limited compared to the top tier gloves. Rage is good because you don't need to fill the meter fully to use the ability. You can use short bursts of rage to kill players near the edge with its speed boost, giving you the advantage even if you were not in a favorable position. It also takes 5 slaps to completely fill the meter, but it's certainly not impossible to kill a raged user since they do have a cooldown. Disc is capable of consistently soft ragdolling players, sending them a lot farther than normal. The ability covers a good amount of ground, is hard to dodge, and the cooldown isn't bad either. The only major downside is the openings it has in between the explosions and the nice open spot right next to the player. Mouse is a pretty effective troll glove. The traps can randomly launch players, but it's hard to hit them directly because of the slow throwing speed. The cheese covers a lot of range and will stall players for the 5 seconds it takes to disappear. If they have any reaction time, they are more likely to be hit once and then a second time back to where they started, but this ability is still really good to use if you are cornered at the edge. At best, it will kill the player by throwing them off the edge, or it will give you plenty of time to get to safety. Any ability that prevents someone from safely approaching you is incredibly valuable in this game. Joust requires you to position your horse correctly to use it effectively. If you are too greedy, you will get slapped off, which is bad for a glove that relies on its ability. You are able to get a lot of kills with the lance because of its long reach, but the ability has a 12-second cooldown, giving enough time for players to punish the user. You would think players are capable of going to the whirlpool when you activate Elude's ability, but no. Either they don't know what to do against this glove, or you were able to stall them long enough for them to die before reaching the whirlpool, even if you just stand in the middle. I got an absurd amount of kills while testing lure, but there were also no gloves in the server that could deal with me. If you could target someone using lure, then you'll likely be fine as long as you can at least hit them once without trading. Not all gloves can easily do this though. Siphon's range is ginormous and can suck up tons of players. It's easy to use this glove as a way to forcefully place players in the spot you want them to be in, allowing you to easily kill them. There aren't a ton of things the average player can do once you hit them. Chuck your Siphon to prevent them from running and then hit them again at the edge. You can still slap and use your ability while trapped, so it is possible to turn the tables at the last second and win, but it's obnoxious to deal with and difficult without the correct glove. Many gloves will be forced to run away from Null's ability because it insta-kills. Other players can deal with the imps, and there are gloves that can instantly wipe them out. There have been lobbies where I was lucky if I can even get my imps to start moving towards a player before being consumed. If they aren't targeting you, just slap them. Null isn't that reliable at killing the players you are targeting. It's not like they have super smart AI that prevents them from jumping off the cliff just because a player is on a side island. Really, the only reason this glove is even A tier is because it does instantly kill players when only 3 imps attach to them. Chicken can cause chaos to the entire server with the ability to summon a billion chickens that fly everywhere. I don't really know how people manage to lag games with this glove, but I do know that this glove is plenty effective at killing players with the ability, even if it technically is a bit luck based. Plus, stopping a player twice is a good way to contain them, considering they will be unable to control their character or use abilities. I think Chicken is a really good glove and capable of killing a lot of players, but it's not always in your control whether they actually die, so I don't want to rank it higher than A tier. Dice is one of the best RNG gloves in the game, since low power makes it easier for you to combo players, and high power, well, you know. This means even if you don't immediately one-shot players, you're just rolling the dice, haha, right after for another chance to one-shot. The worst this glove can do is slap someone with average knockback, which is not that bad. I normally would not rank gloves high if they aren't a consistent threat, but this glove is kind of the exception, even if it lacks a proper ability. Rojo's ability makes you invincible shortly after charging your ability. The projectile is really strong and hard to dodge, but it takes 7 seconds to actually fire, giving players plenty of time to prepare for it, and it has an additional 13-second cooldown. This cooldown wouldn't be a big deal if you were invincible the moment you start using the ability, but you need to wait until the purple orb is actually formed first, which takes a second or two, leaving you vulnerable once targeted. Frostbite's AoE is pretty massive, given that it immediately freezes players who happen to be caught in it, and you can charge it to make it bigger too. Since players cannot use most abilities, this glove is good for getting free hits. Players are only frozen on the initial ability use, so you aren't safe if players decide to target you after you slam down. The ability is also not instant in use, so you can be punished if you are too close to players. Every single random ability Jester has is effective at disrupting players, and the Joker's card's insta-kill is enough of a deterrent for players targeting you. Why would anyone want to target the Jester if it means they can potentially just stall you forever. Players can technically bait the ability, but 8 seconds isn't a long cooldown, so you need a highly aggressive glove to reliably kill someone using Jester. But this glove will not dominate servers since the effects are random. Nobody wants to fight a potato user unless they have mobility. Having a death counter sucks in this game and it encourages hit and run tactics. You can pass a potato on to other players, but there is a possibility you will trade and immediately get the potato back. You are also just dead if you are given the potato with a low timer. The potato explosion also does AoE knockback, which can be a bad thing if someone is chasing you. The potato would never dominate servers since it has nothing else going for it. Glitch is one of those gloves that aren't really too dangerous, but you never want to fight against it since the ability stalls you for too long. You are able to freely slap players right after they touch the ground, but it's not the most reliable considering how long it takes for the ability to end. Players have plenty of time to come after you during the ability. Still, Glitch can be tough to beat without an aggressive glove because of the ability's long range. It's generally not worth going after a Glitch user unless they just use their ability. Harvester can get some really cheap kills with just one slap. I have managed to kill a couple of huge threats with this glove, but the crows seem to only activate when they feel like it. This glove isn't anything special without the ability. You can get unlucky and have it activate when Scare Trap is near a player. For some reason, the small knockback that occurs when it activates makes bro just miss. Awesome. This glove is honestly very close to being OP, but the issues are not enough to make it relatively weak and gets a good chunk of gloves. Beatdown can no longer perform disgusting infinite combos. However, landing the ability still makes players vulnerable since they can't move after being hit. You can kill individual players relatively easily, you just don't get to do so with iframes. The ability can be baited, and it only works on one player, making you vulnerable after it ends. Ah yes, a glove that fully blinds players who are near you. This glove obviously sucks. The glove that only gets 64 power when it breaks? Pathetic power. Just use range gloves. These are the kind of thoughts you have when you're delusional. Kraken is a slap plus E glove with the most fair hitbox an ability could possibly provide. The ability gives you some time to avoid it, but the range is massive. This glove can easily kill players on the basic combos, which is scary considering that the cooldown is 10 seconds. Spoonful can be used to travel pretty much anywhere in a very short amount of time, and the ability is able to get free hits on players. Although it does take time to use, with not much knockback to make up for it. So not the best if you only want to rely on the ability. You can also save yourself from the void by using the ability because you cannot fly into the death barrier at the top. If anything, the ability is just a nice way to start fighting someone, then maybe save it for when you are in danger of dying. I don't think this is a super safe ability to use when there are players near you, and you kind of need the ability to do anything crazy with this glove. Counter has a very high chance of immediately killing a player when they fall for your ability, but you are also very vulnerable if you don't use the ability at the right time. I experience a lot of players somehow hitting through my character and not triggering the counter effect when I use it. Considering that this is the only thing the glove has going for it, missing the counter can cost you your life. Dive Bomb has a nice rocket dash that is nice for closing distance and playing aggressively, and the jump can easily save your life. I do think the S tier gloves will outclass Dive Bomb with how powerful they can be, but Dive Bomb is a solid glove that has a nice balance of defense and offense. Golem Summon can be easy to dodge, but the threat of it smashing you is usually enough to throw you off when the user is playing aggressively. If the Golem does hit someone, it can combo the player by itself depending on the moves it's using. It also lasts an incredibly long time and is invincible, so the only way to effectively deal with someone using it is by rushing the player and trying to kill them as fast as possible. But it's definitely doable, and some gloves will have a much easier time doing this than others. If you catch someone with Grab's ability, it's over for them. You will either be able to kill them or at least put them close to the edge, but it does only target one player and has a 10-second cooldown, so it can be dealt with if they miss or are dealing with several players. Since Clock's abilities are cycled, you can use this to your advantage and plan ahead against certain targets you may encounter. None of Clock's buffs are bad and are effective in different ways. I have been able to stall S tier gloves with my abilities until I get something that helps me either turn the tables or just escape. 8 seconds is not much time to kill a player with one buff, so this glove can be inconsistent if you want to play aggressively with it. The cycling abilities makes this glove better at surviving more than anything. If you thought water was bad, then you have not used this glove enough. Water is incredibly effective at killing individual players since you can spray water under their character while they are ragdolled from a slap. They are also able to be slapped normally while they are laying on the ground, making it very easy to punish players who trip. Of course, the downside of water is having to refill your tank, but you can mitigate this weakness by spraying water whilst filling it. Chain has always been annoying since they can disrupt you without even targeting you. This glove is very effective when there are a lot of players nearby, but you cannot control which direction the chain players will go. Therefore, this glove is best used to go after one person like any other slapping glove. If players get chained, cool. If they die from the chain, even cooler. This crowd control ability can provide enough value for me to rank this A tier alone. Conveyor's ability can be somewhat circumvented since players players can jump to prevent complete death, but having this ability active makes them move a lot farther away when ragdolled. This ability is really good and not fun to fight against, but you can technically use the conveyor to keep away from the user and possibly even go to a side island, which ends up being a better position for you to kill them in one hit. At this point, anyone can win really, but it's really hard to kill a conveyor user without switching to a glove that counters it. Moon is good since you can put away your glove to cancel the low gravity. It's very easy to trick your opponents with this glove, and it just so happens to be good at staying away from any unfavorable positions because of this. Being able to control your ragdoll is useful, but more often than not, you will take more knockback than intended. It's pretty good, but it certainly won't clear out any servers. Stun is good if you can stay in the arena for a long time, since the knockback and AoE size ramps up pretty quick. But if anyone targets you with a good offensive glove, then stun will struggle. Being able to throw down a giant bomb is cool and seems very powerful on paper, but you will likely not hit anyone without getting a few slaps in first. Stun very much relies on charging its ability. Hybrid has a beautiful balance between offense and defense. The buffs are aligned perfectly to be able to speed up to someone, jump, slap them, and then have higher gravity in case you get slap traded. Hybrid's base power is 40, so you are almost required to use the power buff if you want to do anything significant, unless you were able to combo with the speed buff. I like Hybrid because it's not OP and versatile enough to get away from threats, but this glove isn't powerful enough to dominate arenas and will struggle against a good chunk of gloves in higher tiers. If you make a mistake using Acrobat's ability, you can be punished pretty hard since this glove only has a power of 40, but the roll ability provides excellent mobility and has a 4-second cooldown. You do have to spend more time to kill each person because of the low slap power, which also makes you lose every trade. This makes this glove mostly just annoying to kill, and it won't dominate servers. Wormhole users are by far the most confusing and potentially frustrating players to kill in this game if you are not using a good glove. The ability is good for ambushing players near the edge, but hard to safely get kills otherwise. This glove is capable of small combos if you utilize the portals correctly, and you are obviously hard to kill if you hop into them. If you are taken away from your portals, it's simple to place another one and go through it. It's definitely possible to kill a wormhole user if you whip out an OP glove or heavily outplay them. Mastered Killstreak's ability to immediately add 10 kills whenever is extremely valuable. Yes, you have to die before doing this, but for a progression glove where you will likely die a lot before getting buffs anyway, this is a good ability to greatly increase the chance you will start erasing lobbies. Remember that it does not take much for Killstreak to start wiping out lobbies, forcing players to use S tier or higher gloves to properly deal with it. Starting with 1 kill is okay. It doesn't feel right to have both normal and mastered Killstreak in the same tier when the mastery version can help you so much more in getting kills. Despite being the glove you start with in the game, Default is very consistent at soft ragdolling players with the low power and speed boost it gets. If you manage to hit someone without trading, you are capable of comboing them infinitely with this glove. The speed boost can also be used to get out of bad situations, making this glove very versatile and underrated. Wheelchair was nerfed recently and thankfully can no longer hit players before the user even moves. Now you actually have to time your hits to hit players. It's still pretty good and can combo players to death. Tank kills. Sure, it takes a little while to appear when you use the ability, but it rarely misses and it does a lot of knockback. Plus, you can still slap players while the tank is active and it will shoot them again. The only thing stopping this glove from wiping out servers is how slow the tank ability is overall and the fact that you have to mark them for the tank to actually be a threat. Stilts is surprisingly very good. You may think it's easy to kill because you just have to jump and slap them, and it would take much more knockback than usual since they are higher up. Stilts can jump too. Well, this changes everything! You can jump on players and combo them to death with its crazy reach. Unfortunately, walking and jumping are the only things it can do. Voodoo can give you a free hit in soft ragdoll players if you time it correctly. You have to slap a player without trading to effectively use this ability, otherwise the player will have plenty of time to come back and the voodoo will disappear regardless if you hit them or the doll. Despite this, voodoo can be really good at killing individual players and should not be underestimated. If you're lucky, or not depending how you view this, another player can walk up to your voodoo doll and slap it for you in case you do trade. Grenadier might seem bad at first until you realize you can cook all grenades before throwing them, giving you a surprising amount of control with what you can do with this ability. Having 3 types of bombs is a nice bonus and I've been able to do some nasty stuff with it. The only major downside is how long it takes for grenades to actually blow up when you use the ability, so it can struggle against multiple players. Even if you don't kill a player in one hit with dominance, you can use the speed boost and low cooldown to simply relocate closer to players and keep pressure on them. 75 power is massive, so it's usually a good idea to avoid anyone using this glove or use a ranged ability since they are limited to their circle for the high power and speed boost. You would think only being able to throw barrels at such a long distance is a bad thing, but this ability happens to be great for combos. You can either slap someone and follow it up with a barrel throw, or launch the player towards you with a barrel and slap them afterwards. The projectile is really good, but it's not quite as good as the S tier projectiles you will see later. Don't you love the concept of being unable to look at your opponent? Medusa forces players to either zoom in their camera or just look away entirely, giving you the perfect opportunity to close the distance and get free hits. If they look back too soon, oh hey, another free hit. They stay frozen for a long time. I don't think Medusa is able to consistently wipe out the soon-to-be horde of very angry players who want you dead, but it's still a good glove. Stun gives you free hits on players and the AoE provides nice crowd control. This ability is very strong, but you have to rely on it to do anything crazy, and the cooldown is 15 seconds. Thor is really strong, but the animation takes forever and you are vulnerable the entire time before you can finally strike players with lightning. To make up for this, the AoE is massive, does strong knockback, slows down players, and gives you a good power boost. The only thing that makes this glove killable is how vulnerable you are before using the ability, and you have 8 seconds with no buff and no ability. This glove will struggle against players that have mobility or ranged, and you can still be outplayed. Retribution is great at killing individual players for obvious reasons, but I can't rank this glove higher than A tier when players can choose when to hit you, forcing you to be a weak glove with low slap power and nothing else. On top of this, some gloves can still compete with you even with the massive power boost and ability. Still a solid glove that forces 1v1s. Trifecta's ability gives you a free hit that you can use whenever you feel like it. It covers a good amount of distance and launches players pretty far back. The only thing stopping it from being OP is a long 15-second cooldown. The user is not too vulnerable during the cooldown since the glove themselves have longer reach and, you know, it's 3 of them. Solid glove. Shikuchi has always been a really strong glove. Even today, you have to either outplay the user or use something that counters the glove. Being able to press a button and get a guaranteed slap against anyone is very valuable. The knockback direction is towards where the victim is facing, so this determines whether they immediately die or not. The cooldown barely matters when the user gets a free hit and stalls you. Since it only targets the nearest player, it won't destroy an entire server, but it is good at surviving it and even better at 1v1s. Beach Ball has a large hitbox, the knockback is good, and the cooldown is only 8 seconds. As long as you are not summoning the ball right in front of someone's face, you have more than enough time to flick your camera in the direction you want and launch the ball, giving you easy snipes. The glove can also be used in a typical slap plus E combo, which will kill players. Other players can also slap your beach ball, making you vulnerable to your own ability, although the likelihood of this happening is low. Warp can be annoying to kill given that they can teleport to whoever they hit whenever they want, but the ability isn't a huge deal given that you can react and flick. Warp's main value is being able to instantly use it in the void, and I don't think it's hard to survive 12 seconds unless you are immediately punished for using the ability. It's not something I would use against top tier gloves or anything, but the ability can promote an aggressive playstyle. Flash can be insanely good at killing players or running away from threats. Even if you teleport a little too far, you can flick to make up for it. One big downside Flash has is it being vulnerable in the first half second of the ability being used, since you can get hit before you even use the ability. This will either straight up cancel it, or you will be launched immediately after teleporting, making it harder to get away from players. Still, having the ability to teleport is obviously very good. Spring users are harder to hit because you actually have to time your slaps well. Even then, the high jump makes it less likely for you to trade slaps with players thanks to ping. It would generally perform well once you get used to it. Speedrun is one of my favorite gloves, being able to perform infinite combos by hitting someone, thereby making them ragdoll go upwards, waiting until you can slap again, then jumping and hitting them while they are still in midair from the first slap. You're basically an annoying bug that slaps a lot to kill someone, but I think a common mistake speedrunner users have is underestimating players who can flick or time their slaps well. Besides that, speedrun is obviously good at evading threats because of its speed, so they can pick easier targets in case there are good players in the arena. Extended is a beast, fully countering gloves that lack mobility or ranged abilities. This glove has been changed several times to try and prevent infinite wet paper slap combos, but it still manages to be insanely good despite all of that. It can, however, get overwhelmed by multiple players or specific gloves that counter it. Flax is a good old slap plus E glove. Splitting the logs is somewhat useful to hit more than one player, but it feels a bit niche. It's hard to argue this being a bad glove, but there isn't anything special to say about it compared to other A tier gloves. Pine Supple has a unique concept and can deal good knockback if there are players nearby to buff you. The condition needed for it is pretty easy to fulfill, just have a player nearby you. But the speed boost won't last forever or wipe out an entire server, plus only players hit by the ability will actually take increased knockback. Pan hits players sideways, and you can choose whether you want to hit them left or right, dealing good knockback. What makes this glove amazing is having a 1 in 10 chance to instantly kill the players you hit. The 1 in 10 chance doesn't make it as good as top tier gloves, but you are no better using this glove over something that consistently one-shots players. No way, a glove that negates knockback is an A tier? Titan has a pretty long 20-second cooldown that likes to randomly bug out and reset, so it's not overpowered. However, being a giant human that doesn't take knockback, slaps players with good reach, and has a 4-second cooldown AoE stomp makes this glove really good. You do have to re-equip your glove when slapping if you want to consistently hit players, otherwise it likes to swing over everyone's heads. Either way, solid glove. Seal best functions as a typical slap plus E glove, as that's when it's most consistent for dealing knockback. Otherwise, the ability takes too long to activate, giving players plenty of time to react because of the audio cue. Seal's retaliation passive is better for trades, otherwise it will not land often. It's decent overall. Slender's ability has really good reach, and giving a player 4 pages is simple when you can press E from a safe distance and slap them, instantly putting 2 pages on them. Blinding players is incredibly useful, especially since you can do it to several players at once, and the increased knockback is an extra benefit given that Slender's E ability already gives you the free slap potential. The reason why I'm not putting Slender higher is because this glove performs much better for individual players rather than the whole lobby. Plus, you can kill the Slender user before they get enough pages to blind you if you are using a decent glove. Eggler's Eggification can roll egged players from the middle to the edge for you to slap them off. Sometimes the egged player will roll off the edge itself after using the ability. If you miss trying to eggify them, you can use your own egg to roll away from danger and wait out the cooldown. Eggler requires you to be close to players and have good aim, but overall this glove can be great for killing individual players. Slicer really expands on the typical slap plus E gloves by adding more projectiles. It can be dodged by jumping over the ability, but once they have more than one slicer coming out, it becomes quite difficult. You can even hit the player more than one time with the ability, which is really strong. I think it's obvious why Lawnmower is a good glove. The ability can instantly kill the player. You can be slapped out of the ability, so using it mindlessly isn't the best idea if someone knows how to time their slap against this glove. It's better to use the ability when you are close to a player so they don't have much time to react. This glove does have slightly below average stats with a brutal 17-second cooldown, and it's really the only reason this glove is an A tier. Jet has no business being this powerful with zero chance of avoiding it with most gloves. I don't care that it has an 18-second cooldown because there is nothing stopping the Jet user from running to the Slapwall Island to recharge their ability. The ability is way more dangerous on side islands, so trying to follow the Jet user is a death sentence. You can, however, position yourself in a way to reduce Jet's knockback and go in the direction you want since the ability only targets the nearest player, so this leaves Jet in a spot where it is good, but you won't kill a ton of players if they know what they're doing. You know a glove was too overpowered when there is a list like this. Holy nerf. This glove still performs very well despite me only relying on the abilities in this footage. The Harpoon is a great way to bring players towards you for a free hit, and it being ranged makes the 8-second cooldown hardly even a downside. The dive is still good despite having an abysmal 3-second start time. You're invincible while swimming, and the attack does 60 knockback. Scuba is good for targeting individual players and has a potential escape from bad situations if you use it at the right moment. Plate feels a bit weird after the change it went through. You can throw your plate twice if you flip and jump on it, but the cooldown doesn't reflect that, so it may be confusing to tell when you can actually throw your plate. Even if you only throw it like I do in these clips, it's still good because you can potentially hit a player twice with this ranged ability that has a good hitbox and decent knockback. Plus, the plate throw only has an 8-second cooldown, so you will do well if you follow it up with slaps. The plate can be dodged as it's a little slow, but that likely won't happen if you use it close to the player. Ferryman has basically the same ability as Trifecta, except this glove has half the cooldown at the cost of having to aim a little bit better. The leap is fine. It takes so long to use for it to be useful. The dash is good, it's just boring. Collector is versatile enough once progressed enough, giving you many options to perform well in the arena. You can use speedrun and extended charms to consistently soft ragdoll players, overkill and bowl to kill players in 1 or 2 hits at the cost of taking more knockback yourself, blocked to prevent slap trades, and more. Different charms are better at performing different tasks, but I personally think speedrun and blocked are the best starters if you want to complete as many tasks as possible. Collector is a fun glove to use that doesn't feel too powerful overall. I can see Doomsday being S tier simply because it can one-shot players, but there are too many variables to consider. First of all, if I understand this glove correctly, Doomsday will only have 70 power after waiting a whole 15 seconds. So this glove isn't that much of a threat unless the user's timer is 10 seconds or below, as the power starts ramping up quickly from there. 10 seconds isn't hard to stall out when the outcome is them dying. There will likely be players you end up slapping when your timer is that low, either because they don't know how strong you are at that point or they just don't really care, but I don't think that makes this glove OP. I could make the same argument for Bull if every player just mindlessly walked into me without even attempting to dodge my slow slaps. Doomsday still hurts, but adding 10 seconds per kill and 2 seconds per slap limits this glove very hard. Boxer prevents slap trades with its ability, which is obviously very nice, but the combo mechanic that this glove has is annoyingly hard to pull off sometimes. If you miss once, it will reset. If you hit a player a little after the initial swing, it sometimes resets it. If there are other players nearby, good luck getting 3 consecutive hits off on that one player. When you do finally manage to pull it off, it feels pretty good. It feels a little harder to hit players and use normal tech like flicking, but overall Boxer is a great glove for 1v1s and taking out individual players. Block sucks a little more at killing players recently, but it's still really good. You get one free hit with no slap trade right at the beginning, and then you pick when you hit the player again since they can't hit you first. At worst, the player might get a late slap trade on you for the second hit. You can also use the glove to hit players back to back with this glove, again preventing slap trades assuming you hit them first. All the nerf did was make it slightly more manageable to deal with a blocked user, so you aren't screwed over the second they hit you once. Shields can no longer stack shields, which is nice. The ability to prevent yourself from being slapped, which is the main way gloves deal knockback, is really strong. I wonder why. A lot of gloves do have abilities to help them out these days, and the top tier gloves are no exception to this, which makes shield a lot less useful against them. It's still a really good glove, but it's not game breaking these days, especially when the nerf it went through. That does not mean you should underestimate it. It's unfun to play against. Metaverse can very quickly go from a normal slapping glove to a one shot in the right circumstances. All you need to do is slap 2 or 3 players and you're pretty much set until they die. You are relying on them being alive for your power boost, and there is nothing stopping them from attacking you, but you will still get kills even if that happens. I don't think anybody realizes how powerful Metaverse can get, and they make the mistake of ignoring them after being hit. Don't do that. Good glove despite the buffs being somewhat random. The E ability is pretty useless though. Virus is pretty similar to Metaverse, but it actually has a useful E ability. Players are infected for 20 seconds and they get that same E ability to use on other players. Difference being, they don't get to control when it's being used. You likely won't get a ton of power with this glove because of the timer, but having 2 or 3 people infected is enough for this glove to become extremely dangerous because of the E ability dealing reliable knockback with a small 4-second cooldown. I generally don't want to rate a glove S tier if they have variables like this that can stop them from being able to do anything crazy. I have had servers where this glove hasn't done nearly as well as others. After the recent buffs Mastered Bubble's R ability has received, it feels a lot easier to land. Thanks to the normal slaps trapping players in a bubble temporarily, you can time your ability to consistently trap players in bubbles, allowing you to do some yucky combos with it. On top of this, the normal slaps can combo players if they are dumb enough to only walk in a straight line towards you, with the only downside being they might slap trade with you and fling you off. Very good glove for handling a player or two, but it can get overwhelmed. Since Groundbreaker makes your player 50% larger, you have more reach and take less knockback from players. The ability is gross because of its huge range and can easily drag players halfway across the arena towards you, allowing you to finish them off. The cooldown is roughly 14 seconds, so you won't be wiping out the entire arena or anything, but it will cheaply wipe out any threats. What happens if a glove has the ability to fly towards a player every 3 seconds? Pain. A lot of players don't perform very well against grapple because it puts huge pressure on them, and the short cooldown gives the user a quick way to get out of tough situations. On top of this, oh look! It can fly to Cannon Island in just a few seconds. It is just a slap glove, so you can slap trade and die. That's the only downside of this glove, but it is good and fun to use. Magnet used to be the ultimate sweat glove back when there was nothing else to use. The ability allows you to either zoom towards the nearest player to get a free hit, or immediately save yourself from the void and maybe also get a free hit. This glove is much more consistent if you use it offensively, since the ability only goes to the nearest player, plus there is no guarantee that you would not be hit when you zoom towards them. You can easily get knocked off, come back, and get knocked off again, especially when you were up against the top tier gloves that exist in this game. Despite this, it would be stupid to say that Magnet is not a good glove even today. Coil is stupidly good. Who thought a 6-second cooldown was a good idea? Players get launched up so high in the air, you'll already have the ability ready by the time they are in range again. You have to be precise while aiming this glove, so you were generally using this glove to kill one player at a time. Otherwise, you kind of have to play this glove defensively. It starts to struggle when there are multiple players after you, but the fact that players will even feel the need to do this shows that Coil is a big threat in 1v1s. Beware of this little egg, for it will show you no mercy, comboing you to oblivion thanks to a stash ability launching it across the map. Showbert only takes horizontal knockback, and they are immune to insta-kill gloves. Showbert also has an amazing AoE ability that seems to always launch players towards the edge no matter where they are, and it deals high knockback. But this sacrifices Showbert's very own life essence, shrinking it every use until they die. The smaller you become, the harder it is to hit players, so use this wisely. The rocket does a strong knockback, but good luck hitting anyone with it. Very good glove, but hard to control. Table Flip gives you time to react and preemptively move out of the way of the projectile. It isn't the best range glove for sniping players from far away because the table will slow down from friction and do less knockback. I am not going to count players magically teleporting to their deaths as an intended feature of why Table Flip is good, but even outside of that bug, it is a good glove that can be used to delete individual players every 10 seconds or so. Pyromania is strong due to how many short bursts of fire you can spit out before running out of fuel. It's a ranged ability, so you can slap anyone and safely spit fire at them until they die. The downsides this glove has is the reload time, and the fact that players on fire have to roll to put it out, which is basically a free acrobat roll. However, there is nothing stopping you from immediately setting them on fire again. Rocky is hard to dodge considering how massive the projectile is. It's also difficult to hit the user after you turn into a rock because it makes you slow, you can't jump, and the Rocky user can use you as a way to gain a bunch of height, which help prevent slap trades when landing. The projectile can also hit multiple players in the area by bouncing between them, but this isn't entirely within the user's control. It can be extremely hard to kill a Rocky user in a 1v1, even with the 16-second cooldown, just because of how strong the ability is. Mastered Stalker kidnaps players. What are you going to do by the time you notice them stalking you? If you don't have anything to safely get the user out of invisibility, you're dead the moment you go near them. It's annoying considering that all they need is a little bit of luck to turn invisible without anyone noticing. Despite this, you can target them if you hate them enough, and it's not hard to do so unless they either have teammates or some other player distracts you from them long enough. So this glove is not quite S tier despite it being very annoying and very strong in the right circumstances. Mastered Phantom can be used in exactly the same way as normal Phantom, so I do think this glove is a direct upgrade. After the recent buffs, it feels really good to use and can easily wipe out individual players, as well as anyone chasing after the user thanks to Vanta Black making players more vulnerable to knockback and giving the user a speed boost. Solid glove. A glove that has a 50% chance to teleport behind a user when slapped is an A tier? How shocking. If you somehow thought Ultra Instinct wasn't good, it's probably because you were playing against bad players. I don't really know how you can be bad with it since you just need to walk forward and spam click 90% of the time. This glove is vulnerable to most abilities, so that's a decent way to deal with them. It's not worth fighting this user at the edge if you can't help it, especially when it's hard to even slap trade with them. It's just good. Fish has the ability to instantly recover from being ragdolled. The cooldown has been nerfed multiple times now, and I think it's finally at a spot where it's not completely overpowered, with 10 seconds being long enough to properly punish the ability, but it still remains a very good glove that can safely attack players close to the edge without risk of dying. It's a simple ability, so I don't think there was much to say about this glove, it's just good. Global having higher reach alone makes this a good glove, but adding the potential 70 crit slaps and the ability to escape any dangerous situation is amazing, and to think they gave this glove a mastery. If you're able to get used to this playstyle and consistently get crits, this glove will perform very well. Hell, just spam jump and click. You'll probably get a decent amount of crits if you think you suck at this glove. The only real weakness are ranged abilities, and you could still slap global users easily because of ping. Being able to blind players with one slap is stupid. You kinda have to see if you want to play this game. Why do we add so many gloves that restrict your view? You would think the ability being nerfed 3 times would be enough to make this glove manageable to fight against, but no. If one slap is all it takes to potentially obstruct most of your screen, imagine not having any kind of glove that can help prevent you from being slapped several times. You would be screwed. The only thing preventing this glove from being S tier is it lacking any kind of follow-up to this annoying ability, so players can still run, I guess. It's hard for me to rank Boogie low even with its nerfed range when the AoE completely disables gloves at a range and slows them down. You have to use a ranged glove to even have a chance to beat this user, otherwise you risk being disarmed and immediately killed. It's pretty boring to use, but you can survive it for a long amount of time and get a good amount of kills if you have the patience to use this glove. Shotgun's recent rework made it more manageable to fight against, but 3 ranged shots is still really good for a glove to have, especially since they have access to different types of ammunition. If you don't have an ability that can deal with bullets, you will likely not survive against this glove. This glove does start to struggle against groups in higher tier gloves because of the long reload animation that slows the user down. Mastered Bust used to be really good, but even this glove's potential was butchered with the added bust indicator. Who cares if your bust comes from a different direction if the players know where it's coming from? What even is the point anymore? I guess it's kind of useful if you squish them first with your new R ability, but players can still avoid it now that they have the general idea of where to walk thanks to the indicator. Plus, you can be slapped while using the R ability. Not being able to get hit by your own bus is a nice quality of life feature, but the inconsistency with kills makes it so hard for me to rate this S tier. But that doesn't mean it sucks. Mastered Voodoo is really good if you want to bully individual players. Being able to stack debuffs on someone is brutal. If you aren't targeting individual players, this glove isn't that much better than regular Voodoo. You can still use this glove normally, and your Cursed Totem can help defend yourself. However, you'll likely only get 1 or 2 debuffs off before it ends up being broken by a nearby player. So this glove can really struggle against groups. But against one player, very good glove. Mastered Hive gives you a whole new ranged ability with a separate cooldown, with the added bonus of increased walk speed when you step on honey. Honeyed players drip honey constantly, which is good, but not super reliable. Mastered Hive is great at destroying individual players, but can struggle against groups, and it has a similar problem to normal Hive with the glove temporarily disappearing when you use the normal ability, even if it does respawn slightly faster. Mastered Eggler's Eggification has a longer reach than normal Eggler and can pull in several players at once. Downside being you are very slow while using the ability, so you can be punished more easily if you miss. miss. The R ability is a lot better, letting you jump very high, but you can only survive one slap. This isn't a huge deal, however, since you can still bypass other players' abilities. You can use the E ability, kill whoever you turned into an egg, then jump to Moai Island and wait out your cooldowns. So if you're a loser and do this, Mastered Eggler is superior to normal Eggler. Mastered Engineer is a contender for the most annoying mastery in the game. The missiles can be dodged a lot easier than tracks, despite them looking the same, but nobody wants to keep track of these stupid things 24/7 while trying to play the game. This, along with the upgraded sentries, makes Mastered Engineer one of the best gloves for camping on an island. However, the user will not perform super well if they try to go for kills by slapping. You kind of have to sit in one spot if you want to perform well without dying. The glove can be countered, and having to counter swap is one of the qualifications for A tier, but even this glove has its general weaknesses. First of all, you are limited to where you can place your sentries, as the track missiles always respawn when facing the same direction. Incorrectly placing the sentry means it will target a random player on a plate or a side island, which will achieve nothing since it blows up well before it can reach them. On top of this, similar to why I rate gloves like Killstreak and Tycoon so low despite them potentially becoming god, I do have to take into consideration that players will go after you if you sit at your sentries like an annoying loser. It doesn't have good recovery moves and relies on the sentries pulling their weight. It's still a good glove, but not the best for this tier list. I am putting regular and mastered Moai together because I think they provide similar value in different ways, and it's up to which you prefer to use. Both gloves place an obnoxious AoE stun on the ground that nobody without a ranged ability can really deal with at all. Yes, mastered Moai pushes players and you can move the Moai by slapping it, potentially stunning players for a long time and even killing them this way. But regular Moai can be just as useful since players are extremely vulnerable to being stunned and slacked by this glove, potentially soft ragdolling them. It's a lot easier to do this using normal Moai. I think they're both A tier regardless of which you like better because you're forced to counter swap to kill the user. If someone is caught with your UFO, there is nothing they can do against you dropping them into the void. There have been nerfs to make this glove easier to deal with, but it's still incredibly good and able to survive forever. It can fly to Cannon Island, kidnap players without mobility, and nobody can harm you in the UFO. The only way to really kill a UFO player is to punish to keep pressuring them when they miss, since they have to wait for the cooldown, which may require you to counter swap. Fan's ability is stupid. If you have the misfortune of ragdolling near a fan user, you're dead. The fan can be held for a ridiculously long amount of time, giving the user enough time to push threats away or get cheap kills at the edge from a safe distance. Surely there is a long cooldown to make up for it. Yeah, 8 seconds is nothing in this game. If you think this glove is bad, please get your eyes checked. Cilia has an offensive ability with good reach, good knockback, buffs the user, and has a very small 5-second cooldown along with a separate ability with a 7-second cooldown. I can't really think of a reason not to rank this S tier. It has good versatility with no downsides. Psycho is obnoxiously OP in 1v1s. One hit is all you need to cheaply pull the player to the edge and kill them with a push or a slap. If that wasn't enough, they decided it would be a good idea to also give this glove a dash ability so they can catch up to most players or run away whenever they feel like it. Awesome, I hate this glove. Thankfully, you can only pull one player at a time, so this glove does start to struggle against groups. The only way you can reliably deal with it is to simply use something that counters it. Mastered Spin might not be that impressive in terms of offense since it's lacking an active ability, but its passive more than makes up for it. Just having the glove equipped means you will almost always at the very least slap trade with someone. If you fly up, you cannot be reached and can ambush whoever you want at the edge with very little consequence. As long as you aren't hit with something that has a long ragdoll, you will survive. Not every player wants to slowly fly up from the void, but I'm rating these gloves based on potential, not what you feel like doing. It's simple but effective. Nobody wants to go out of their way to kill this glove unless they actually have something to do the job easily. It's not surprising a glove that can kill a player with one ability is an S tier. If you go near a scythe user near the edge, you will almost certainly die. A ranged glove is the only way to kill a scythe user solo. Scythe also struggles against groups since they become slow and can only grab one player at a time, but the ability still deals knockback if you are within range. I feel like a glove that wipes out players effortlessly should be in this tier. Sparky is basically a one-shot. The reason this glove is only S is because of the 15-second cooldown and slow startup time, which gives players time to actually punish and kill you. Once this ability is active, you're dead if they decide to go after you. Not much else needs to be said. Despite the Snow Roller ability being cancelled when you are ragdolled, it could still get a lot of kills before dying since it only has a 9-second cooldown. Hitting someone with a charge ability is certain death for them and anyone else unfortunate enough to be in the way of the giant snowball. Even if you don't charge the ability, you could just snipe a player to do considerable knockback. Range gloves are stupid. Black Hole has a ranged ability for considerable crowd control. You slowly push players off the edge with almost nothing they can do about it. It's cheap, but really strong. It can be interrupted if someone slaps you during the ability, which can happen as the Black Hole moves slowly, and there isn't much you can do if someone gets around it. It has a time limit, so it will not always kill if you try to be greedy and pick up too many players. Rob instantly kills players you touch while the ability is active, and you're invincible during this state. It's obviously stupidly strong. You can run away from Rob if you manage to run in a straight line and get to a side island, but if you get interrupted, or you can't get yourself in a position to do this immediately, you might be screwed. Rob is still very killable thanks to his 20-second cooldown, but the ability is strong enough to say that it belongs in S tier. I know, such a brave take. I think Bob could be a little bit more dangerous than Rob if you were scummy enough to use it right. Bob has a smaller 15-second cooldown, and if you camp at the kill cube, you will almost certainly win. If the player gets slapped while Bob is chasing them, they will likely die, so unless you are using this on a mobility glove or one of the few gloves that can kill Bob without the cube, you have a very high chance of killing the player you sent Bob after. It sucks to fight. Yes, I'm putting Normal Shard in S tier. A ranged ability with a 6-second cooldown that deals knockback and a slow debuff is extremely valuable. It is very easy to slap someone and use the ability to combo the player, which pretty much seals their fate if the user feels aggressive enough to actually finish that player off. Elf users are harder to hit, move faster, and have the ability to inflict pain and suffering. Nutcrackers are annoying to avoid because they can't be damaged in any way, so you have to accept you're about to be bullied by a gun for however long this garbage lasts. Oh look, Elf can summon another one. If that wasn't enough, how about a tank? If you have the misfortune of being in its line of sight, you're dead. The tank doesn't turn that fast, so the user could be vulnerable if players try to approach the tank, but it isn't that hard to run away from a player or two unless they're using a glove that specifically counters the tank. But even then, you still have to deal with everything else Elf has. Nightmare Glove. The ability to stun a player from a safe distance is obviously going to be a really good glove. The cooldown isn't horrible either. Stop struggles with groups, but immobilizing one player will be beneficial regardless, and it's not the worst idea to save your ability and run away instead of trying to kill the group by yourself. This glove becomes even better if you have to run to a side island, so it's not fun to fight against. Quake has insane value in a free-for-all setting. If players keep their distance, they can get knocked back. If players get too close to you, they get stuck on the ground, at which point they will die in one hit if you slap them. This glove has no business having insane range it does with such a small cooldown. Soul is disgusting when used correctly. On its own, the base projectile can be a bit hard to aim, but it can be used for a slap plus E combo with a measly 3-second cooldown. So I found myself performing this combo back to back against players who were after me. You will naturally gain charge as you perform this combo and kill players, allowing you to gain enough soul charge for essentially a one-shot AoE that you can now unleash towards your favorite player. This glove is very strong offensively. Roll Rings M1s alone are strong enough to combo players across the arena thanks to you being able to control the charge of your swings and the lunge you do afterwards. It has a ranged ability that shoots out 3 projectiles, which can extend your combos to kill players and start new combos by sending the projectiles back towards you and starting from there. That's not an overpowered combination at all. There is also an X-Slash ability, but it's not super useful once players learn they can jump over the slash. It can be used to start a combo, but that's really it from what I've tested. This glove is plenty strong even without that ability. Rhythm could be a one-shot glove with little setup. You get free speed boosts and random AoE explosions that scale with your points, so you can really annoy players and even outright kill them. The AoE explosions feel very weird and will sometimes knock players back well after it actually detonated. You're also faster than other players after progressing for a bit even without the insane speed boost you can get, so if you're good at hitting notes while slapping players, you will become overpowered if left alone for too long. You know what's the worst part about this glove? It's allowed to no one-shots, because of course it is. I'm putting Whirlwind and Charge together because of how similar they are. They are both gloves with an ability that charges into players to deal knockback. Charge's ability is very fast, can fly over the void, and immediately halts after charging into one player. Whirlwind is a little slower, can't fly over the void, and the user will fling in the opposite direction they were facing, but they can hit more than one player. They both have a 12-second cooldown and can cheaply kill players at the edge. Charge can fly out into the void and loop around, and Whirlwind just needs to face the edge and activate the ability because the hitbox is so huge. These gloves are very annoying to target since they can wipe you out very quickly. They do not need to be aggressive to get a lot of kills. Using either one of these gloves is up to your preference, as they have very similar pros and cons. If you get hit by a disarm user and you somehow don't trade with them, it's pretty much over for you. You can run, I guess, but then don't just be at the edge. If you have a good glove, the disarm user can simply choose not to go for the kill. Saying ranged gloves counter disarm isn't really a good argument when you have to swap to reliably kill it. Having your input keys reversed destroys your muscle memory. It's insanely hard to do anything complicated while being under the confusion effect, making you extremely vulnerable. The purple screen does not help. Yes, please go ahead, beat me up while you had reverse controls or try to run away when you have this effect for 10 seconds. Not only does knockoff screw with your camera positioning, it makes shift lock almost useless, and unlike wrench, knockoff actually deals knockback while doing this, making it way more of an offensive threat. You get to deal with this glove for 12 seconds. Have fun! Butcher has a nice mobility move that debuffs and knocks players away, and a free recovery ability. The rush ability seems a bit misleading with how far it actually reaches, but other than that, the glove is really good. Nothing else to say. Admin is obnoxious mostly due to the fact that you are stalled every hit the user does to you, giving them plenty of time to walk up to you even after a trade. You don't even have to play aggressively with this glove because of the ultimate abilities existing. The jail passive ability and the fling are more than enough to sit in the middle, jail 10 players, then do whatever ultimate you feel like doing to demolish most players in the arena. Anything else that admin has is just a bonus. Oh hey, another glove that despite being nerfed several times, still remains a top tier glove in the game. Yes, let's have an ability with an 11-second cooldown that deals knockback and completely traps players in a large area. It has crowd control, it has knockback, it has free hits, nobody wants to fight this. Can you believe this ability had a 5-second cooldown on release? Insane. Woe's ability is so simple yet so effective. The cooldown is only 10 seconds, and you get an ability that will always let you get free knockback you can use whenever you feel like it. Oh no, you're being pressured at the edge. E. Oh no, there is a player you really want to finish off, but they're using a dangerous glove and you don't want to go near it. E. You get the point. The knockback is strong, and I'm glad they nerfed it a little. Bion's cooldown is ridiculously low for how powerful it is. It doesn't do any knockback, but it freezes individual players in place. What can you even do against this glove if you aren't using something that counters it? Despite only affecting one player at a time, I was able to hold my own even against 2 teaming players. It's strong, and the fact that it gets an ultimate on top of this that lets the user move faster temporarily while stunning players with an AoE is even more insane to me. Reflect is another stupidly strong ranged glove. The projectiles bounce off of everyone you hit, and you happen to have a handy dandy reflect ability to redirect the projectile to another person. If the player you're targeting is far enough, this allows you to potentially hit them twice. The cooldown is 5 seconds, which is low enough to allow the user to solely rely on the ranged ability to the point where you almost can't even reach them if they aim good enough. Obviously, this doesn't apply if you use something that can counter the glove, but it's still an insanely good ranged ability. There's also a mirror you can place, which doesn't add much value, but it's pretty cool. Paint has a lot going for it. Painting a player slows them down and allows you to slap them for 70 power, and the roller ability can deal knockback if a player is already painted. If that wasn't enough, the user also gets a speed boost while on the paint, because obviously you need more speed on top of your opponent getting slowed down. The paint roller is valuable for making a big paint trail for you to zoom on. You also get an ink projectile that you can spit out every 2 seconds, meaning you will always have some paint to debuff players and get speed boosts from, making this glove insanely powerful when used correctly. I see almost nobody using this glove, and I have no idea why. Retro has a ton of versatility. You can increase range from your sword, a ranged ability, recovery, and AoE all thrown in one glove. These abilities have been toned down a bit since release, so this glove is absolutely killable if you're using a good glove. Honestly, not the worst to deal with considering some of these S tier gloves require you to specifically counter them. Mastered Soul has the ability to turn into a void form with increased walk speed and new abilities. You take damage when hit, but you also gain health when you hit other players. The increased walk speed alone allows you to play very aggressively, and the tendrils are great for getting cheap kills, but players will learn quickly that they could just run away and wait out the ability. The nail barrage is so bad. It doesn't look like you can aim them at all, and I have very few situations where any of them actually hit a player, no matter how much soul charge I have before using it. I hope it's bugged and it isn't actually this bad. I think this void form is pretty good at dealing with select players, and you can toggle it off at any time against players who counter it, as Mastered Soul will function the same as normal soul outside of the void form. This glove is just soul, but more versatile. Materialize is in S tier just because of how quickly you can teleport and immediately slap players. If you play like a disgusting creature, you can exclusively ambush people at the edge and teleport to safely right afterwards, or exclusively target weaker players with this glove. Nobody can really stop you from doing this once you teleport to safety, as I don't think any glove can travel as fast as this glove can. Penguin lets you pull off some insane combos since you gain speed with every slap. It's already hard to hit a fast player. Now hit a fast player that is laying down. The ramp is a cool way to keep your momentum and has allowed me to kill several players before the ability ran out. You are vulnerable once you slow down, so thankfully Penguin is not impossible to deal with, but it's very strong. It's been a while since I've been accused of hacking when using a glove. Thick does not require much before it becomes a threat. The slap power starts off so weak that you can quickly build up size and power to the point where you slap people without them being able to reach you, unless they have crazy high ping. Remember, 60 power is enough to kill players in 2 hits from the middle, and players are required to use actual abilities to do something to you most of the time. The nerf that makes it lose 1 size every time you get slapped means nothing when you can slap people 9 out of 10 times without getting hit, and the slower slap speed just means you can't clear groups as fast. Reverse quite literally counters slaps and most abilities in the game with a relatively low 9-second cooldown. The 6 seconds the ability is active gives you plenty of time to charge straight towards any player near the ledge. And defensively, this glove is insanely hard to kill unless they happen to be caught at the edge of the map while going on cooldown. Boomerang is really good at dealing with groups because of the ability range. The orbit knockback is so low you can easily soft ragdoll players with it while simultaneously defending yourself from other players. On top of this, the glove can be used to get cheap kills since the ability will home in on any marked players. The knockback isn't crazy, but you can control the direction they are sent, like Detonator, to pull off some combos. The only thing that hurts this glove is the cooldown being 15 seconds for the orbit, but that's not enough to put it below S tier. Swordfire's strength surprised me since I typically don't see players using all of their abilities at once. You already get the longer reach like Retro has since you're swinging a sword, but Ghostwalker, Darkheart, and Illumina give you so much value. Swapping between those swords alone allowed me to get free hits with Darkheart freezing them like ice, Illumina giving a dash knockback, and Ghostwalker making me harder to hit, as well as having nice buffs overall if you switch to it before someone dies. Those abilities allow me to safely deal with one-shot gloves without being slapped. The only time I died was when I got cocky and rushed in without freezing him for some reason. The single downside is having to wait for swords to spawn, but depending on what you start with, this might not even be that bad. Slapstick can have longer reach than extended, and you can simultaneously charge it and your dash ability to ram into players. This glove is so obnoxiously hard to kill when it can run away whenever it wants, potentially to Moai Island since it can run on the air, and the extended slap is stupidly good at killing players. It is quite literally just extended but more annoying. Extended mastery? Whoa. I was just casually grinding the mastery for Tinkerer and I ended up killing so many players without really trying. The fact that you could just stand a couple feet away from a player, just barely out of reach of them, slap a stupid tracking bomb in front of their face and get free knockback is disgusting. Oh, what? You get 3 bombs before you actually go on cooldown? That's so awesome. Glad the people at Slap Battles HQ thought of that idea. The only thing that makes this glove somewhat tolerable is you can cancel the ability if you slap them while they are doing the spawning animation. Hey guys, so what if we added a bomb? What if that bomb could knock you halfway across the arena if it explodes remotely close to your player? You would think that a glove like this would get nerfed or something? Nah, it was buffed. Twice! You guys wanted this! Why? What is wrong with you? Sure, the bomb is a little slow, that kind of sucks. So obviously the solution was to make the range knockback ridiculously enough that the speed doesn't matter anymore. This was the only solution, yes, of course. 10-second cooldown, by the way, and they gave this a mastery. Mastery BONK is a crowd control monster. I find myself accidentally Goomba stomping players a lot, which is strong enough given how vulnerable squish players are. Being able to launch players with the BONK is powerful, and even if you don't have a player nearby, the value of having a hammer that knocks any nearby players down at worst is so good considering you can walk up and slap them for free. You simply cannot miss with Chainsaw due to its infinite speed. Having above average power and a significant speed boost on top of this makes this glove insanely good unless you somehow do not understand the concept of unequipping your glove. If you don't know how to flick and want to practice it, this glove is perfect. The Schlob, allowing you to control your knockback, obviously makes this a good glove. Are you immortal? No. Does this glove work against everything? No. It would just give you a hard time even if you are using a really good glove. Rift Shot is such a sweaty glove. Being able to teleport not only yourself, but your opponent too, wherever you want with a separate cooldowns is ridiculously powerful, and I don't need to elaborate any further on why that is. The cooldowns aren't even long. It's hard to trade with a glove that instantly teleports you away. The reason why this glove is in S tier is because firstly, it can stall a lot of time by making you have to walk a good distance to reach the user again depending on your luck. Second, it can just kill you randomly. I don't know what the odds are of this glove instantly chucking you off the map, but it's high enough to be a threat to anyone in the arena. Nobody wants to fight against this glove. Mastered Moon lets you store the moon dust after doing a full hop, allowing you to consistently activate the ability near players. You can also do a similar tactic with the upgraded moon dust after using Moonduction. You're just on a timer before it deactivates. This ability is great defensively, disrupting anyone near you. This also gives you the opportunity to get a free hit if they float in a favorable direction. Obviously, low gravity makes you hard to hit as well, serving as a passive way to stay alive if you don't feel like attacking specific players. This glove can be a bit harder to control properly since you are given a lot more tools to work with while while also having low gravity, so I can somewhat understand if someone thinks this glove isn't the best thing in the world, but at the same time, Normal Moon is already a really good glove, so why wouldn't the Mastered version be? Mastered Acrobat can casually pull off some insane monkey tech that makes you question what this game even is anymore. They can jump or even just hang in the air for long periods of time, perform similar tech to Acrobat but with upgraded power, and triple jump for zero reason. This glove wants to be 64 in a lot of ways. Pulling off the combos is not hard to do at all, so you would likely always have the resources to fly across the map, with the power to choose whoever you wish to kill. The only thing holding this glove back are the buggy animations. Mastered Spring's Super Jump gives you a ridiculous amount of speed, allowing you to hit a player and immediately follow it up. Normal Spring was already hard to hit. Giving it a speed boost on top of this makes it gross to fight against. The placeable springs are pretty decent for a little extra mobility, and slapping players into the springs can launch them very far. Very annoying glove to fight against. The obvious pros of Mastered Fort are instantly placing walls you can jump really high on and staying in the air forever if you feel like it. There is also tech you can do where you can place the slope walls at the correct time and jump. You will fling backwards a significant distance, which will allow you to pull off some nasty combos on players, as well as giving them another tool to get out of bad positions. Considering that you only have a 6-second cooldown and the slope wall has its own separate cooldown, this is pretty gross to deal with. You won't always be able to safely kill players with this glove, but gloves like this don't have to kill everyone to perform very well in the arena. The user won't die if they don't want to. Mastered Space already gets a power boost for their normal slaps, which makes the power above average. Of course, this isn't enough. The normal ability cooldown is lowered to roughly 4 to 5 seconds if you don't cancel it, but why stop there? Let's also give it another ability they can use with a separate cooldown. To be fair, this ability is not useful. It will maybe confuse players a bit and make you a bit harder to hit, but the player being affected by the low gravity will also be hard to hit for you, so who is really winning here? Either or, it's a great glove. Its survival potential is extremely good, and it can dish out some strong hits when needed. I already talked about how annoying regular wormhole can be. This glove decided to take it a step further and add the ability to teleport to your nearest portal. It's not overpowered since you can no longer use it over the void, but that doesn't make it bad. The cooldown is only 5 seconds and adds another layer to the complexity that this glove has when you are fighting players with it. Nobody can know for certain where your portals are anymore thanks to this ability existing, and you no longer have to use one specific setup to ambush players anymore. The other changes are more quality of life than anything else, so I won't talk about them. Hollowjack has the most annoying visual effects in the game by far. Dark green tinted screen that violently zooms in and out, playing the same stupid 3 notes over and over and over. Please make it stop! The pumpkin is slow, but it has a huge hitbox, and getting slapped by it is certain death since you ragdoll in place, practically begging to be hit by the user's now boosted 70 power slaps. The cooldown is below average for S tier, 15 seconds, but it's a ranged ability, so it's not really a bad cooldown. This glove has always been good. Once you get used to having to play around the unique animation 64 has, it becomes a very strong and annoying glove to fight against since it is already faster than normal gloves and it has ridiculous airtime. If you ever thought this glove was mid, it's probably because you haven't fought against someone who only used the slam ability, which, don't get me wrong, is a good ability. You're just using a fraction of this glove's potential if you're relying on it. Plus, the slam is the only time this glove actually becomes vulnerable for more than half a second. Snow has been around since the birth of slap battles, yet remains one of the best gloves in the game due to its simple passive ability. If you're not using a ranged glove or anything that can negate the debuff, you are at a major disadvantage against this glove. It's just that strong. I shouldn't have to elaborate further. Instead of trying to talk about how strong Ice Glove is despite it being nerfed twice, let's just show a clip of what typically happens to a player after being hit once. Mastered Rage promotes using the ability in short bursts by temporarily boosting the user's walk speed even more than normal when you first activate the ability. But this glove can also stay in the Rage mode for eternity, since the Rage meter decreases slower. Remember, this means you can always move faster than the average player and have a power of 65 as long as you are occasionally slapping players. The new R AoE ability is fine for finishing off players or dealing knockback to threats, but it's nothing crazy when it costs 40% of your Rage meter. And the whole power over 100% gimmick is a gimmick. You can't really die when using Mega Rock and Custom since the cooldown is half a second, making you invincible for as long as you want with 0 downsides, and having the bonus of killing anyone that touches you. You can also set on players to kill them, with the only consequences being you might take 1 hit while trying to do so. Custom is slightly better than Mega Rock since you can adjust your slap power and speed to your liking. Considering the fact that Parry's ability cooldown is only half a second if successfully used, and it has a dash ability with a separate cooldown, it would be a crime not to put this in S tier. Mastered Redacted's portal sucks up players like a vacuum, and the cooldown is low enough to always have an active portal on the arena. Realistically, the only thing you have to do is stand still and use the portal and P abilities, and you are safe unless someone uses ranged abilities. If you actually want to press more than 2 buttons, you can play completely differently by utilizing the portal and P abilities separately. Maybe you want to have the portal active nearby and use the P to force players to get sucked up. You can even use both of these abilities defensively as a way to punish super aggressive players. It's just good. Slapple is a direct upgrade to Woe. The AoE knockback isn't determined by how far the player is from you, unlike Woe, and you just so happen to spawn a nice tall tree to sit in. From here, you can choose to immediately use this tree to ambush a player, or be a freak who hides in it until the cooldown is ready. What do you even do against this? You can't outplay a competent Slapple user, so you're forced to counter it with a different glove. I seriously do not understand what the devs want with this glove. Why was it buffed? Hello? Are we playing the same game? Why are we giving this glove invisibility when they backstab someone for 100 power? Did someone think this glove wasn't already worth it? Sure, they did nerf this glove a little bit this year by only giving this glove mini crits if they flick. How strong is it? Oh, 75 power. Now this glove only has a chance to one-shot instead of it being guaranteed. Such a cool and balanced glove. Angler's fishing ability is only a little annoying to deal with, nothing crazy. The real reason this glove is an S tier is because of the tech you can do with the rod. Moving your character out of shift lock while casting your rod moves the hook pretty quick, allowing you to easily catch any player who is remotely close to you and flinging them back. From here, assuming they aren't immediately dead, you can either walk away and do the same thing to combo them infinitely or slap them while they are ragdolled depending on the situation. This glove has so much reach, it can easily wipe out players. And unlike Extended, the reach isn't limited to the ground. If you haven't tried this tech out yet, you should. It's fun. Welcome to the current brain dead meta. Part 1. Dave's abilities would be completely fine to deal with if you weren't trying to evade the giant hands right in front of you the entire time. The E and R abilities force players to keep moving, and the reach this glove has is stupid. I have been avoiding slap trades by tilting my character a little bit to the left or right depending on which hand is being used, since they alternate. If the Dave user has at least 3 brain cells, they can safely swipe the hand while using an ability with the other hand, making this glove almost impossible to even approach for most gloves. Perfectly balanced. As fun as it is to run around with this glove, the abilities this glove has along with the increased movement speed makes this glove almost impossible to kill without countering it. Increased movement speed already means it's hard to hit the user to begin with, but no, let's give this glove a long stun as well. The punch hitbox seems somewhat inconsistent, but the one cool thing you can do with the punch is using it while you're vaulting in the air. It launches you very far if you ever needed a reason to run away even faster from players. Ice Skate's ability allows for some disgusting combos with little counterplay against it. You can combo players fast enough to consistently soft ragdoll them, and the ability cooldown is only 5 seconds. The ability doubles as a defensive tool whenever you are cornered. The Ice Trail is just an inconvenience to most players, so I'm not sure why people always try to use this as if it does anything meaningful. Very good glove. All of Santa's abilities are good in their own situations, because they are all ranged abilities. Santa takes decreased knockback because of the big sack they carry around their back, so you typically win slap trades. The most consistent use I have of this glove is chucking Bob plushies at everyone. The cooldown isn't bad, and it's just a free combo extender you can freely spam without any consequence. It can also be used defensively. The milk is fine, but the cooldown seems too large to do anything significant with it, and the snow peeps feel pretty niche considering you have to spend a bunch of time digging through your bag to switch to it, making it useless defensively unless you already have it out. Making a player a little slower just doesn't seem that much more useful than dealing consistent ranged knockback or straight up putting someone to sleep. So outside of that, really good glove. Welcome to the current brain dead meta. Part 2. Why slap human when me can throw sharp object and stab? Knife free kill. Free kill good. In all seriousness, having a ranged ability that can slow down players and make them take more knockback is stupidly strong. The game is very forgiving with a knife hitbox, as I find myself hitting players that absolutely should not have been hit. Probably explains why this glove is so popular. The impale should not be used whenever you can be easily punished. The only time you are safe to use this ability is when they already have the debuff. Still though, the stab is really good if you land it since you can just redirect the knockback wherever you feel like it, and throwing the knife has a lot of synergy with it. But the throwing knife has synergy with everything when you're given a free power boost. Welcome to the current brain dead meta. Part 3. Wouldn't it be a cool idea if the devs made an ability to turn invincible? Let's see. The meteor that activates the ability fills passively. The meteor fills very fast if you're attacking, and you can teleport and hit a player, which also fills the meteor. So the only thing stopping you from surviving is yourself if you misjudge the card distance after activating the ability. You may think this glove is not that good because most players who use it suck at the game, but don't be fooled. this glove is strong. Rattlebones is extremely annoying to even approach because of its broken ability that essentially has a 60 power homing AoE missile made of bones that can't be outrun by any normal means. The cooldown is 10 seconds that starts at the beginning of the ability use. 4 seconds of it is Larry Rising, which is threatening enough to keep players away or else they get the red Larry of doom. Then however many seconds Larry is running. Then roughly 3 seconds of ragdoll time or 4 seconds if you deal with evil red Larry. So, according to my calculations, you're dead. The best scenario is the user has 3 seconds with no Larry, which means nothing, considering you have to walk back towards the user after being flung anyway. Don't even get me started on evil red Larry's knockback in speed. There is no scenario you can argue that this glove should be going anywhere below S tier. If you thought you were safe on Cannon Island, think again. At first, this glove is exactly the same as normal Ultra Instinct, but it is not hard to increase the dodge chance, which very quickly makes this glove even harder to kill than it already was. 60% dodge chance will give you the ability to instantly get out of any bad situation. This glove is a direct upgrade to the already powerful Ultra Instinct. I don't know what else you want me to say here. Mastered Chain was reworked and no longer chains players in the direction you are facing. And they gave it a projectile! This is obviously a better solution to the AoE and won't totally demolish servers or anything. Yep, pretty strong. Mastered Shard takes all of the combo potential normal Shard has and shatters it into 1,000,001 pieces. Why combo when you can instead snipe them with a 70 power explosion? Nothing is stopping you from using this like normal Shard either, which now has a better slowing effect. You're simply given the option to push them a lot farther instead, which will likely just kill the player if they are not in the middle. Cool. Mastered Tinkerer has the same exact stats as normal Tinkerer when using the normal bot. The mastery just gives you more options to work with so you can bully all players now instead of most. It's also objectively more fun to use since you can actually do more than just mindlessly spamming E. You can still die, you just need to be targeted by some other ridiculously strong glove if they want to stand a chance. Mastered Rob lets you choose a mutation for the first 3 absorptions you get with the ability. These mutations were essentially a way to make this glove more interesting to use, but you can choose upgrades that make it work like how it used to, or tweak them slightly to your liking. Either way, it takes 3 absorptions to become as strong as it did before this rework, so it's a little weaker now since you could die before you reach full power, but it's still insanely strong. Since Undead technically does not die when slapped off the edge, this is a very good glove according to the tier list rules. The user takes 10% of their health when slapped and heals 25% of their health when they kill a player, so they can survive for a very long time if nobody counterswaps to something that can deal with it. They also get a speed and power boost when they kill someone, so that's neat. I survived for 14 minutes straight when testing this glove. Berserk is essentially a one-shot. After 4 charges, you can kill players in a single hit from the middle of the arena. 80 power isn't a one-shot, shut up. Anything more than 4 charges is just overkill. It drains unnecessary health and takes too much time for little benefit outside of the hard player 5-4. Once you are hit by Goofy, your fate is sealed. If they choose to kill you, there is pretty much nothing that you can do about it. The ragdoll is very long and your character cannot turn properly. You can delay your death a little by using a ranged ability or equipping a one-shot, but that doesn't change how overpowered this glove is. Mastered Cherry lets you instantly teleport a clone to someone's face and slap them. You cannot slap for 1 second after teleporting a clone, but the teleport uses the slap button to work, so your clone is already slapping when you teleport them. The teleportation range is also ridiculously large and has no cooldown. On top of that, being able to switch places with your clone not only allows you to move faster than the average player, but it also makes it extremely hard to tell who the clone is and who is not. This is at least a 10-second cooldown, but that isn't long. At the low cost of 57 Robux per use, you are granted the ability to never die. You can't die due to being ragdolled with this glove, period. The only exception to this is if you are having some massive lag. You can, however, die to anything that normally insta-kills players. Overkill, flex, null, cube, flying too high or low, and touching the death barrier, that kind of stuff. Yep. As long as the alchemist user has enough time to grab the ingredients for invincibility, they can pretty much do whatever they want. As long as you pay attention to who is near you and know when your potion is about to wear off, you can't really die. If someone has unlimited time to make any potion they want to throw at players, including a potion that straight up kills you, you cannot argue this glove is not overpowered. Mastered Run might come off as a slight shock being in this tier specifically. I mean,
Come on, guys! The R ability doesn't even insta-kill players anymore. What a useless mastery!
Run is already annoying to kill due to the ability to teleport to side islands. The R ability isn't even bad. I don't understand why anyone would think it's useless just because it doesn't immediately kill players anymore. The ability still deals 60 knockback that you can control by looking, and it's basically AoE since the hitbox is so massive, and you become faster than a normal player. And, of course, we can't forget that you are invincible while using it. So anyone who thinks dodging the ability is a simple task really should be rethinking this. It's not the easiest ability to bait. Even if the user somehow misses entirely, there is almost nothing stopping them from immediately using this lovely crowd control ability that at worst teleports them to a random side island. You do not want to be stuck on a side island with a mastered run user. 60 power is a one-shot here. Is mastered run user unstoppable? No, obviously not. Much like how one-shot gloves, detonator, or any other overpowered slop glove you can think of is not unstoppable. Speaking of which, shocker! You mean to tell me that one-shot gloves are overpowered? Nonsense! Yeah, gloves that kill players in one hit are OP. I don't know for sure which glove is truly the best one-shot since they all have their pros and cons. Overkill has a lot of weaknesses that disable the one-shot ability, but being able to kill players without the need to even click makes it nearly impossible to miss. Plus, just because someone is using snow doesn't mean you will lose. You still win if you hit them first. The flex instantly kills players and can bypass parry. Error bypasses reverse and sends players so far that it becomes almost impossible for them to trade with you afterwards, and is only somewhat manageable to fight against thanks to the user no longer being able to slap while ragdolled. God's Hand has a really nice time-stopping ability to help mitigate its weakness and eliminate whatever glove is giving you a harder time, but it's also the only one-shot glove that can be survived because it does not instantly kill the player, unless you count Overkill being extinguished for 10 seconds with something like Snow. They're all one-shots. They're all OP. Who cares which one is the best? If I had to pick, I would probably choose the Flex. Mastered Glovel has one of the best recovery moves in the entire game, being able to escape the void if you aren't ragdolled for too long. This new ability is enough to justify it as S tier because you also happen to have an ability that lets you stall indefinitely. That's basically it. Glovel is already a strong hitting glove that has more reach than the average glove. A recovery ability was the only thing missing for it to become insanely hard to kill, assuming the player is willing to play like this. So you know how Bomb was already strong because of the insane knockback in AoE it has despite it being slow? Yeah. Let's buff the speed. Let's also make the cooldown shorter. Let's also allow the user to teleport the bomb. Was this necessary? No, probably not. I just feel bad for everyone when using this glove. Hey guys, what if we gave the annoying booster glove a speed boost? Wouldn't that be cool? What if the boosters were also stronger? The only chances you have in beating this glove is if you manage to hit them while they were flying around at Mach 5, which is absolutely possible if they don't know how to control this insane speed. Still, having a glove that can kill you in 1 or 2 hits, depending how lucky you are, is not fun. I do not understand why there was a poll to nerf Mastered Flash in numerous ways, but they chose the nerf that does the least to fix any of the problems this glove has. 12 seconds isn't even bad when we're only talking about the undo ability here, and it only happens if you miss. Mastered Flash still has the ability to instantly teleport every 3 seconds. Nobody is hitting this glove if the user doesn't want to get hit. I shouldn't have to explain why this glove is already a nightmare to go against, but hey, maybe you haven't been beaten up by a teleporting glove before. You are not likely to trade with them, and they can undo the teleport to combo you, or use the undo to fix a mistake they made if they misjudged the teleport. You will wipe out arenas. It's OP. Detonator is the only glove in the game that can effortlessly wipe out the entire arena full of players with the press of a button due to its ability to detonate players they mark, dealing AoE knockback. It's not that complicated to toss a human bomb towards a group of players and press E. It's honestly a miracle if you don't die when they are targeting you. A 10-second cooldown means absolutely nothing when they are likely going to be spending that time marking as many players as they can during this time frame anyway. Shocker, I know. This beloved S-tier spectator has just been demoted to non-applicable. Riot all you want, but this has to be done for the greater good of this world. I have a lot of hatred for this glove, but once you hit someone, that's it. You can no longer hit them. They can no longer hit you. They can, however, still hurt you with abilities. Despite the lack of a visual indicator, if the person you hit dies, they still cannot slap you until you die. Not a PvP glove. You sit in a room, and maybe invite friends to also sit in a room. Not a PvP glove. I know you can kill people with a kill brick, it's one of the tasks for the mastery, it's still not meant for PvP. This is just a fun sandbox glove you can use in the game that happens to have lethal capabilities due to obbies having kill bricks.
Using plank offensively means camping on one of your planks or creating a small plank jump scare. It doesn't do much. This glove is a utility glove like Obby and is not meant for PvP. You can spawn a cloud with 1 extra seat, or 2 with the mastery. It's a utility glove, with the real only PvP use of ambushing players from the sky or its potential with teammates, which is against the rules of this tier list. Cult is made with teammates in mind. When playing solo, it has no ability and 40 power, but can become practically unstoppable with 8 other teammates, turning it into a one-shot with boosted speed. I don't think it's fair to rank this glove based on solo use, but if I did, I would just put it as D tier. I like Shopkeeper, but it's not a PvP glove. You get shop discounts and slap currency by slapping other players, but players also get the shop items. This not only makes them as strong as you, but it discourages you from being aggressive since you are a weak, easy target. You can peacefully get passive income from other players if you aren't attacking them. Making enemies isn't in your best interest with this glove, so I won't be ranking it. Guardian Angel is clearly meant for aiding teammates in this game. You hate them, I hate them, but they are almost necessary for dealing with the power creep this game has. This doesn't fit the theme of this tier list, so it will not be ranked. Since Equalizer takes roughly the same knockback as the player you hit or the player that hits you, I'm not going to rank it. You usually both die when using this glove unless one of you gets lucky. Equalizer also has a power cap, so it's not like this glove can even be considered for a counter for one-shots or anything. Divert launches the player you hit directly to the nearest other player. If there are no players, then they take normal knockback. They will also take normal knockback if you hit them in quick succession. This glove is mostly used for trolling or for messing around with friends, so I'm not ranking it. If a stick cannot kill on its own, then I cannot rate it in this tier list. Speeve, like Stick, cannot kill players on its own. It requires another player to kill them or for them to reset. Suction has wacky physics that are really fun to mess with, but it's not really a PvP glove. I don't care if you juke a player at the edge and think this glove is amazing and should be properly ranked. Slime, as of this video's release, is still broken, I'm pretty sure. Sometimes the slime just disappears, sometimes the slime completely tanks your knockback and prevents you from dying, which might be intended. Sometimes the slime doesn't really let you jump on it, so yeah. I don't really want to rate a glove in this state as I'm not even sure what's intentional and what's not. Conker's Grab is bugged at the moment, which is the passive slap ability. Lullbomb's ability is death. You die for a chance to maybe kill someone else. I killed a detonator with Lullbomb, so obviously it's S tier. 5 more very often flings players and themselves across the universe by slapping, which is clearly a bug, so I'm not going to rank it. That's everything. Here is the full tier list for the people that want to see everything in one place. There will be higher quality versions, both in the description of this video and in my Discord server. Now for some yaps. I severely underestimated how long this video would take. I spent 3 months grinding on and off to prevent burnout just to obtain all of the masteries and gloves I was missing. It then took 1 month to record every glove since I've been gone for a long time and had a lot of new gloves to learn and make sure I understood any tech that existed before ranking them. It took 2 weeks to type up the 28,000 word script for this video and another 2 months to revise the script and fully edit the video, all while making sure I was up to date on all of the balance changes and new glove releases they made throughout these months. Imagine typing a script for a glove, recording the video and audio, and editing it all together only for it to be completely reworked. That wasn't fun. So if you expected this video to come out a lot sooner, sorry. I'm happy to say that my video schedule should look a lot more normal now that I finally made this video. I really wanted to make a big video to catch up on everything I missed during my weird hiatus, and I thought a tier list would be perfect for this. I kind of regret working on it considering how long it took, but I also did not want to take any shortcuts like making garbage rankings without considering everything a glove has to offer, recording on a private server using abilities on an alt account and slapping a ranking on it with little to no reason why. That's lame. Regardless, I hope my rankings were fair and I did not make too many mistakes. It's safe to say there were a lot of gloves to rank. It won't be perfect no matter who makes this kind of tier list without community input. Tier lists are opinions. You should not take these or anyone's rankings at face value. I want to try and make weekly uploads again on this game for however long it remains interesting. I've been thinking it would be pretty cool if I cover the technical aspects of new gloves and testing to see how good they actually are, alongside whatever skits I may come up with and other entertaining moments I come across. I don't know how much I'll enjoy doing this yet, so don't hold me to anything, but it's what I've been thinking about for doing for a while now so I can stay consistent with uploads without having to purely rely on the funny haha moments. I will be doing events and I will be making videos on other games again, so hopefully there will be cool things to look forward to. Thanks to everyone who has helped me in any way during this incredibly long journey, whether you helped me with grinding masteries, the script, or some rankings, or even casually played the game with me during my egregiously long recording sessions. I want you to all know that you made this experience so much better. Thanks for watching.